That's sixes. That's 36
just
damage
a
coming out
good
of the
matchup.
This matchup's just good. What are we talking about? This is the nuts.
And there's the shot. He's done it. What? Unbelievable. Mate, my hands are shaking too.
Welcome everybody to day 2 of Masters Tour Stormwind. Yesterday was the first 4 rounds. Today we will be playing the next 4 rounds and finding out our top 16. And luckily for me, opening the show is Gia. And Gia, what did you think of yesterday's show overall, or yesterday's tournament overall?
I thought it was very fun to watch, especially that very last series between Pasco and Fury Hunter. I think that was a banger, great exhibition of some of the best talent we have here in Masters Tour Stormwind. And as we enter the second half of the Swiss rounds, for sure the talent is starting to get filtered down to all the best players now.
Yeah, it was a crazy day, and looking through some of the tweets, some of the lists and the leaderboard, it was a crazy day for LATAM in particular. They have a multitude of players on 3-1, and Lucas DM Nask, something like that, in first place on 4-0, being the 4th famous Brazilian Lucas. We'll get into that later, most likely, when we get into it. But let's have a look at the format for this tournament, just for those who weren't here yesterday.
Yes, we do have Conquest, as has been the case for every Masters Tour throughout the year and last as well. So every player has 4 decks, each from a different class. You have to ban 1 from your opponent, and with your 3 remaining decks, get 1 win apiece. So it's a best of 5, and because this is Conquest, there is the possibility to target something on the other side, but because we also have a relatively old meta, we're seeing more and more people just go for the tried and true decks, the strongest power level overall, even if they don't necessarily have a hard target. They might have a soft target here and there, though.
Yeah, the meta wheel seems to have turned a little, though. There's quite a few people trying to target the main lineup, if you like. And then it's gone a little bit further out. There's some people even bringing, say, Fell Demon Hunter, which targets the targets. Let's have a look, though, how much money they're going to get when they win this tournament.
Yeah, it is a good amount. I am used to seeing these numbers be like a 10th of the size as we discussed Grandmasters, and it's not quite so clean as you do it over there in America, where every win gets you X amount more money. Not quite so. If you make the top 16, it's $3,000. A win after that gets you another $3,000, but a win after that, the pattern's broken. It's plus $4,000, Lorinda. This math, I can't deal with it.
It's going to get so confusing for me and TJ as this tournament goes on, not being able to work out how much money people have earned. We're going to have to actually write it down, or ask people, or I don't know, maybe take a screenshot of this. We'll work it out somehow, though, I'm sure. Have a quick look at yesterday's action. We opened up with Rekvan versus Wet Goose. This was a great one to start the day off.
Yeah, it was very cool. Went all the way down to the wire. Wet Goose immediately took 2 wins, but got reverse swept on that Garrote Rogue. Rekvam, I think one of those players that had at least a soft target on the Garrote Rogue, although it did come down to a mirror at the end. And to fill out the round, we had Baby Bear versus Bravo, where I think it is fair to say that Bravo had a couple missteps here and there, and Baby Bear really put on an exhibition with her off-meta lineup featuring Death Rattle Demon Hunter and Anaconda Druid.
Yeah, it's tough your first time or very early time on stream for Bravo, Baby Bear being by far the more experienced of the players, and it showed very much in that match, I think. Then we had Insane putting on a great show against Shiny Bear. He had a lot of turns. It just came down to, like, if you get this turn wrong, you lose. If you get it right, you win. He had a lot of calculations to do, like predicting hands, leaving himself on 1 health, that kind of thing, and that worked out for him extremely well. Then we saw Maverick trying to do the reverse sweep against Champming, but not quite getting there. The lineup just wasn't there in that matchup.
Yeah, and then we had LZ John versus Lona, 2 players that are trying to get those points to promote into APAC Grandmasters. Again, 6 slots open for APAC next season, because aside from our 4 relegations, we had 2 retirements as well. So I think the APAC players should be especially motivated coming into this penultimate Masters Tour for the year. And you can see how much it meant to them, both John and Lona showing very visible frustration when things did not quite go their way. But I think this last matchup, Lona had it in the bag. He knew that he was very favored against that Secret Paladin. But after that, we had Flamekiller and Mago GX. Mago, I saw him on Twitter for the first time yesterday, who said that he is playing a very, very boring lineup, which is, I suppose, the negative spin on what you want to call the best decks lineup. It did perform well for him, though, so maybe bodes well for players with those lineups.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing the best decks at all. They're the best decks for a reason, and if you're comfortable with them, there's no reason not to do that. So definitely don't want to put people down who play the best decks. But if he's willing to call them boring, then that's a good admission of where the situation is. And then this match was the match of the day for me. It felt like a final, casting it. Both players massively into it, lots and lots of really close decisions, lots of weird plays that made sense when you thought about them for longer than I normally would, and a Fury Hunter coming out on top there. There's the standings in the Swiss. There are 23 players on 4-0. This is just the top 16 of them on tiebreakers, and Kallax, long-time Hearthstone player, missed out on all kinds of things by fraction over his career. Great to see him at the top. Matty, who's been having a great run recently, also 4-0. Pocket Train I want to pick out there because he came from ladder, played a couple of bad tournaments, then had a pretty good tournament but messed up because he was nervous on stream, then had a good tournament where he played well on stream. Could be Pocket Train's day today, I think, and you see some of the others, Swids in particular, on the right-hand side.
Yeah, Swids with the re-promotion dream alive, perhaps. And then Pun, I also want to highlight as one of the original players of the Pony Dojo, representing their pretty impressive stuff. And then we have 2 Chinese players from Team WE, also 4-0. Team World Elite showing up big time here. But there was also a surprising and honestly pretty sad for me lack of APAC talent in the top 16 there. It was overwhelmingly European players, I suppose. I should be used to that by now. But it is, of course, only the halfway point. We have 4 more rounds of Swiss, and we could see some other players turn it around.
Yep, anybody down to the 3-1s should be able to get into the top 16 and an outside chance for the 2-2s, but they're really playing for the top 32 slot to qualify for the next Masters Tour at this point. Going to open up though with Matty, who we just talked about a moment ago, but there's a lot more to say about him, versus Murphy, who we don't know that much about, but has played several Masters Tours before. And Matty Gia is a potential rising star again at the moment, although not a new rising star, he's been around forever.
Yeah, I mean, we have not been giving this guy enough credit. He has the best Masters Tour win rate outside of any Chinese player, I believe. And the fact that he's not had a win yet, I just feel like it's somewhere along the horizon. We're getting close to it because Matty's just been so consistent in these huge fields. And I'm not sure if he has always subscribed to the 4 best decks type of lineup, but if he has, it's been working well for him. Because yet again, we're seeing here that Matty has just gone for the Garrote Rogue Handlock Face Hunter and OTK Demon Hunter, a lineup that people were already bringing like 3 weeks ago in Grandmasters. Just after all the nerfs had settled, these 4 decks seem to have the best win rate across the entire field. And we do see the mutual Demon Hunter bans on either side, which I do agree with. I think when both players have these similar lineups of just the good decks, you could kind of have an argument as to whether you're supposed to ban Garrote Rogue or Demon Hunter, but because Demon Hunter has the favorable in the head-to-head, I prefer that as the ban.
That makes sense to me, yep. And so you end up with the mirror bans, the mirror match, and there is a look at Matty. It's his 7th Masters Tour, so not played in all of them, so a bit of a resurgent Matty. As you see there, 2016 made top 8 at DreamHack Winter, and in 2016 those DreamHack Winters were big, difficult tournaments as well. And then there's that huge percentage win rate that you're talking about, 41 wins, 17 losses at the start of the day.
That's so impressive. 70+% win rate in such a huge field where you do have to kind of build your lineup accounting for the possibility that you're going to run up into counter lineups. You're going to run up into a lot of mirrors. You're going to run up into also things you might not necessarily expect. So a lot of it comes down to how well you know your own decks, because you can't always account for how well you can play around your opponent, for example. And then Matty here starting off with the Handlock. I think of all the remaining decks, this could be the weak link here. A lot of practice groups have been talking about whether Handlock is even worth bringing in this meta, because as early as Grandmasters playoffs, people already kind of knew this is just not the greatest win rate deck. There's quite a few counters on the horizon, and other popular decks like Demon Hunter and Rogue kind of beat up on it. But once you factor in the Demon Hunter ban, I think the Handlock is not in the worst position ever. It can still get there versus Rogue, for example, with the Cult Neophytes and Flesh Giants all together, but it's difficult.
Yeah, one of the things with Conquest is your fourth deck is always such a nightmare. It's like the most important decision almost, because if it gets targeted, it can lose 3 times and lose you the match. And your fourth deck always feels bad because it's your worst deck, so it's going to feel bad relative to your other decks. But eventually you just end up sometimes having to settle for the overall power level. It'll find a win somewhere along the way, especially now that Altar of Fire seems to be pretty much a permanent inclusion. You can always just get lucky.
True. That card is ubiquitous. It gives you win rate in matchups you should have no business winning versus just by sniping one of the most important combo pieces, for example. And it also allows you to get closer to activating Scavenger and Bristleback, which are the key cards to turn the corner versus aggro. We are going to start off with the Handlock Mirror, though, which is one of my favorite matchups to watch, even though this deck has been there since the very start of United and Stormwind. It's undergone so many different nerfs and changes, and this final iteration has returned to it being a race to getting the Flesh Giants down, but also that's only game plan A in the mirror, because there's a world where your opponent can answer all of that or put forward an equal amount of threats, and then it turns into a race of fatigue using Blightborn Tamsin to kill your opponent.
Yeah, I do feel like Handlock is almost in the position where if it gets any help at all for regular Warlock cards in the next set, that on the edge of maybe dropping the Quest and the Giants and just playing a Handlock traditional, fill your hand up with your hero power and just play good removal cards to back things up. We're not there yet, but I do see that the Quest is getting weaker and weaker, synergy-wise and otherwise. So if it's still good in the mirror, you keep it, but at some point it may end up getting turfed out, which I think would make some people happy. Not me so much, because I actually quite like this Quest.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we could just run a full Handlock list with the Dark Alley Pact, I think, the 4-cost spell that summons a demon with stats equal to your hand size. That one was kind of messed around with even back in the day of D6 Warlock. We'll see, though. I think the quest is still very powerful to give you win conditions, even if you run out of all of your threats, because the fact that you just never fatigue if you get Blightborn Tamsin down is very powerful. And in terms of the lists of both players, I think they're only one card apart. Maddie running the 1 Mortal Coil and 1 Unstable Shadow Blast, whereas Murphy has 0 Shadow Blast double coil, which I do think is maybe a bit of a detriment to him, because the Shadow Blast, at least for the mirror, is very useful to help get rid of Anetheron, Flesh Giant. That 6 damage for cheap could come in clutch.
Let's have a look at what Matty decides to do here with this opening hand. Flesh Giant Raised Dead, so tempting, but so slow if you don't have anything to go with them as well. Curious how he decides to go.
It's still a debate until now as to whether you're supposed to keep Flesh Giant. On coin, you could kind of say, I still have these 2 other card slots to find Backfire, but more and more as I see the matchup, I'm just more of a fan of looking for turbo card draw, so Backfire and Tour Guide. Also Anetheron, of course, that one is just very difficult to get out. Get turboed out towards the late game, but Maddie disagrees. He's going to keep the Raised Dead and the Flesh Giant, so hoping to get the card draw off of his taps, most likely.
All right, let's see how it works out.
Oh, there's the Backfire anyway.
Easy game. Yeah, the nod. I knew that was coming. Easy game. One thing I remember about Matty when we have cast him in the past, he's very considered. That doesn't mean slow. Like, he plays his turn instantly when there's an instant turn to be played. But the second there's a decision, he just does try to weigh up all of the options. Obviously, that's kind of what all players do at some level, but he does use his time when he needs to use his time.
I think we can maybe even say the same about Murphy right now, where he's already somewhat deep in the tank, or maybe taking time to calm himself down, as that turn was a very obvious just tap and pass. But these players have been on Handlock for how many months now? They should already know the general curves, just making sure that they can adjust later on if need be. And for Maddie, this doesn't necessarily scream coin Backfire. You do that generally if you have access to Anetheron and Null together, but because it's only the Null right now, he goes for the tap and allows himself to go for Backfire next turn, maybe coin out Tour Guide, depending on how the draws turn out. Whereas for Murphy, it's just another tap.
Yeah, Murphy doesn't seem to have much in his hand that gives him a game plan, like you say, apart from just tapping away, whereas Matty's going to have multiple decisions to make in the next 2 or 3 turns as to ordering and how he wants to actually process everything in the right way.
All right, now on 8 cards, if he goes Backfire, he'll draw up to the full 10. And you don't necessarily want to overdraw this early. So to avoid overdraw, he could also coin Tour Guide. But the question is, does that coin mess up his curve if it's used this early? I don't think so necessarily, because the cool thing about Handlock is as you build up hand size, you do get cheaper Goldshire Knoll, so he can play that for 1 mana next turn. And then he can use tap also to see if there's anything else worth playing. It might work out a little bit weirdly, but worst case scenario, you can fill out your 4 mana turn by playing Knoll plus Bristleback, for example.
Yeah, and he's going to do that. Has a look at the backfire just to make sure, and yeah, seems okay. Does get up to the 9 cards as you described, and everything looking pretty good for Matty this early at the start. Murphy, on the other hand, obviously not quite aware to how much trouble he might soon be in, but really hasn't got anything to do at the moment. His hand is just a bunch of sort of tech cards and building cards.
Yeah, he's missed Backfire, and he's missed like sort of the round 1 threats of the Knolls and Anetheron. Those tend to come out way before the Giants, but he can at least get the draw off of Mortal Coil. He is running 2 copies of these, so that's pretty likely that it happens at some point. And he's just going to rip the Altar of Fire now. 1, because it's just spending your mana, and he's trying to create space to play the Backfire.
Yep. Did hit Anetheron there. I didn't see what else he caught out of Matty's deck, but I think he lost a couple of his own big threats.
Yeah, he lost the Scavenger, which is both of them, I think, based on the deck tracker, which is kind of a big deal because a lot of the reason for playing Altar of Fire is to get the Scavengers down earlier. Not the end all be all though, as long as he has Giants and Raised Dead, you could just see this as all in on the Giants as the threats instead. Whereas for Maddie, we've arrived at that somewhat awkward turn. We were talking about the 4 mana. Like I said, worst case scenario, he can fill out the mana nicely with 1+3, but the Bristleback feels like a bit of a waste to use this early.
Picking up the double Giant is interesting. See if he can find a way to reduce them both simultaneously and get some sort of crazy Giant action going off. But he'll probably just continue to make mid-range threats, I would imagine.
Yeah. I do think the Knoll's coming down for sure this turn. The Raised Dead only has Tour Guide in it right now, so I don't think that's worth playing. And he is just going to tap up to 10 here, accepting that there's going to be 1 overdraw likely next turn, unless he gets Knoll off the top. That's insane.
Yep.
So lucky.
He was just trying to reduce Giants and keep stuff going towards the end of his deck, but now actually has a legitimate board that you would think Murphy can deal with because he hasn't been doing much else with his hand. Not ideal, just reacting all the time, but he really has got nothing happening for him at all.
Yeah, very little. I don't think that this warranted a Soul Rend just yet. And Murphy agreed, especially since Matty's already used the coin, right? So next turn he's not threatening Battlemaster just yet. But after this tap, what is the rest of Murphy's turn? Is it just Neophyte and then hold on to the touches? Sure, but at some point he's gonna want hand space for the Backfire as well. It is starting to get to the point though where Soul Rend will become good for Murphy and he can get down to the 10 card breakpoint. So this Bristleback in hand will become active, but the loss of the Scavengers from the Altar of Fire also makes it difficult to empty his hand space.
Wonder how tempted Matty is here to drop one of the Giants just because he's seeing that Murphy's struggling to kill things. Because if anything sticks, he'll just win the game. He can get a lot of damage in.
That is true. If he just trades away the Neophyte and plays Giant, he's safe to Soul Rend. It is scary if there is, I guess, exactly Soul Rend plus Drain Soul. That is a Giant punish because you've spent 5 mana on a Giant, which later on becomes 0 mana. But I do get your point, right? That if it sticks right now, you just straight away win the game.
Yeah, and especially there's a backup one he could have dropped the next turn. Looks like he's going to go with the Tams in play, though.
Yeah, he can copy the Raised Dead because of the Neophyte aura in play, which is very good for him here, even though this first Raised Dead, I think, only got him back a Tour Guide. Yeah, there wasn't hand space to get anything else anyway, so it's a nice utilization just to make sure that he can get even more value from the Raised Dead. It's not that the Tour Guide itself is a huge thing to get back, but it's a free Raised Dead, which is free procs for your quest, free procs for the Giant, and so it's just a good Tamsin overall.
And Sort of building on how I was talking about the last turn, but now if Murphy does any sort of good clear, probably doesn't get much else down with it. As it happens, he has some options in that regard. And then Matty can just play double giant next turn and say, okay, now clear this up. Now you've used a Soul Rend.
Does one Tamsin beget another? Murphy's at 12, which is very scary. But this turn we could see be another on, then Tamsin touch, 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 which deals with all of the knolls. You heal 8 only because only 2 out of the 4 touches will actually kill minions. But you get rid of the knolls and you can VT the Tamsin with your Neophyte. I think that's decent. The Soul Rend is okay here, but if you weave in the tap again, you're going back to 10 cards. And that seems awfully scary to me. But he is just going for tap and then Soul Rend. Kind of the same thing. You're going to burn 1 card no matter which order you go for it in. Lose a second Bristleback and Alter. Okay.
Excuse my giggling. I just saw
though.
Matty's face while that was going. I was like, this is your answer? Okay, sure. I don't mind. You're not scaring me.
The fact that players are willing to tap while at 10 cards just shows how much they value progressing their quest, cheapening their giants. We can see Murphy's kind of all in on a fatigue game plan now. He's actively trying to delete cards from his deck, but the thing is he doesn't have that much health to play with in terms of actually getting the Blightborn Tamsin in hand. He still has to deal another 8 damage to him. 16 even, right? This is quest level 2.
Yep.
It's scary.
Yeah, and Matty's not going to be letting up on the pressure. But I think Murphy saw that Soul Rend, saw that he's probably in a bit of trouble himself anyway. He's got no threats in hand apart from the Anetheron, which is like half a threat in the mirror at least. And so I think he just decided, okay, this Soul Rend gives me a strategy that might work. Let's go that way.
Matty here, starting with the Flesh Giant, looks counterintuitive, but he had to make space to get the full value from the Raised Dead, which makes a lot of sense. With this last tap, he gets the proc on the quest as well, so both Flesh Giants can come down, which is huge. He's just seen a Soul Rend, but Murphy was prepared for this. He has Tamsin Soul Rend ready to go, but if he uses Tamsin with Soul Rend, that means Tamsin is potentially gone to use with the touches. And again, I am so worried for Murphy's health total. He's a long way off from getting Blightborn Tamsin.
Yeah, I mean, even the mediocre minions are threatening lethal some of the time now for Matty. Obviously, the touches can deal with those to some degree, but I liked your play a couple of turns ago, which sort of got all the clutter out of the hand and put the health total back into a respectable level. That did make far more sense than where we're at for me, but he was tempted by the huge amount of mill available from the Soul Rend, and that is obviously a viable secondary option.
Reaching for the Tamsin here, I assume he's just going to go for the Tamsin double Rend, which would leave him at 3 cards left in deck. At some point, he might have to take his own fatigue and not have it damage Matty because his Blightborn Tamsin might not be in hand. I'm really worried for Murphy's long-term potential. The healing is so limited because he burned a Bristleback, he burned a Drain Soul, and now Tamsin is gone. There is Raised Dead to possibly get Tamsin back, but without that, I'm not liking his chances. Whereas Matty, he just has his own 3rd Raised Dead ready to go. The extra one he got from Tamsin is amazing. That's another chance at Flesh Giant, and after that, Murphy's out of good answers. Like, I guess he can answer 1 with Blood Shard and Touch, but if there's more than that, it's going to be a struggle.
Nice pickup from Matty as well, in case his Raised Dead isn't a good one. So, plenty of choices available for how to try and get a winning attack, I think, together here. It's not just an attack, this is a chance to put it over the line. He'll have a very good idea what's in Murphy's hand. Obviously, he's seen the burn cards. He's seen a lot of cards played. There's only 2 left in the deck, so he knows what he's got to beat. It's almost a solved game for him at this point.
Almost. Let's see what's in the box. Null and Tour Guide. It's a bit below average. I don't think Matty necessarily wants to see tour guides at this point, but you're right, the Scavenger being on board is still huge. The fact that he can threaten something is a big deal, but because it's not enough to stay on board after Murphy's done with all his removal, maybe this is the point where Murphy can turn the corner, right? He can heal back a lot by using the Bristleback and the Touch of Nathrazim.
Yeah, interesting that Matty allowing for the fact the game could go a lot longer yet, because you could just play a Battle Master sometimes in these situations against other decks. It's just big enough on its own, but realising he might need to put together something a little bit later on if there is large healing still to come from Murphy, which we know there is because he's been holding on to it for the whole game.
Raised Dead from Murphy, looking for Tamsin here. That's the nuts. Okay. I think he has enough healing now, or like a lot more than he did a while ago, because he still has access to touch with Tamsin here. But I do think he might also have to play the Bristleback, which means you can't play another on. So maybe the turn is just not both touches. Wow, he's even weaving in taps. Okay.
Yeah, he clearly, the Soul End turn, he clearly chose his path and he committed to it. That was the decision, I think. First of all, pick which one you want to go, but also how hard do I want to go down that line? Okay, all the way by the looks.
Okay, and then touch, and then giant, so he's at 12, but he will be taking natural fatigue next turn. Can Matty kill Murphy here? I don't think so. He only has access to 6 damage. The quest is on Tamsin level, so he can't get any more burst from that. Murphy just playing very, very fast and loose with the tell here, but he has managed to remove any immediate lethal breakpoints while still retaining Tamsin Drain Soul, so he might be able to pull this one back. Matty, though, still has Soul Rend at least, and his quest, I think, is very close to just giving him Tamsin this turn. Not quite sure where it's at, though.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure, but he's been on this one for a while, and he's definitely taken damage while it's been there, so...
7 out of 8. So he can get Blightborn Tamsin in hand just by tapping here. He will go to 9 cards, so that's not going to delete the Tamsin, of course. But the problem is he won't have mana to play Tamsin and Soul Rend. And Soul Rend seems pretty high priority right now.
Yeah, I wonder if he's looking for... I'm sure he's looking for a 2-turn lethal here. Is there a way he can get it done?
Wait, the Tamsin's not in hand. Sorry, did we hover over the other quest? I'm confused now.
I didn't see either. I'm going to firmly blame you, Gia. Absolutely your fault.
All right, sure. Okay, Soul Rend.
Well, he's paying attention to the screen. I'm looking at pictures of cats.
They are cute. I won't blame you. Manages to weave in the coil, which is big. Just making sure he has more resources to work with here. I guess Murphy was the one who was on 7 out of 8, so this fatigue will get him to level 3. Yeah, okay. Theory confirmed. He is a long way off from being able to play his own Blightborn Tamsin, because he only has 11 health to work with. He has to take 8 in order to put Tamsin in hand, and that might not happen the same turn that you can even start dealing fatigue damage to Matty. So I'd be highly prioritizing getting Tamsin Roam first half to deal as much damage as possible here, or healing rather.
Yeah, we've got to count the healing. There's only, what, 2, 4, 7, 10 healing left total here for Murphy, because he burned those Bristlebacks early on.
Yeah, I mean,
in the Soul Rend.
If he could manage to get both touch of the Nathrism to heal him, then if we're being generous, it's 18 healing, right? 14 healing, 2 Drain Souls and 2 touch.
Yep, sure.
And even that, I don't think is very realistic, because what are the touch targets left by this point? It's gonna be Tamsin, Drain Soul, and I do think Murphy has to tap here to progress his own quest. I don't think he can finish the quest by playing Backfire. That's too much damage you're taking, and you need the Backfire to deal the killing blow, I think. So he's gonna touch here, so only heals 4 off of this, but I think it's smarter than using second Drain Soul, because he will not guaranteed get value out of the other touch of the Nathrism anyway.
And Matty's job is just to keep presenting lethal, lower that damage coming in. Again, he can probably set up a lethal possibility here with just Bristleback and Neophyte.
Yeah,
there'll be 2 natural burn, plus Murphy needs to tap again at the very least.
I'd like for him to just play his own Tamsin as well if possible. Yeah, okay, so this turn can just be like Tamsin plus Dream Soul.
Sure.
That seems very clean to me. And he should know what Murphy's last remaining 4 cards are, which actually makes it so difficult for Murphy to complete his quest here, because Murphy is currently on 4 out of 8, and this next fatigue proc will deal 3 to him, I think.
Isn't the 7/7 Tamsin just basically lethal next turn anyway?
I wonder.
Just as a minion, forgetting that it has an ability. Tamsin Drain and off you go. I don't think Murphy can stop it.
Yeah, I don't, oh wait, maybe can Murphy get his own lethal next turn if he goes tap Tamsin and then Backfire? I think that's what Matty's playing around, right? Because that would deal 5 No, 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 3, which is 18.
Yeah, Matty
And
has
also,
now.
the Neophyte prevents that from happening. Okay.
Yeah, and he set up his own lethal now with Tamsin backfire, with the Altar taking out that last card as well.
Indeed. Yeah, it was a bit hasty to say it's just Blightborn plus Dream Soul there. Of course, Murphy had it calculated that he could get a counter lethal if Matty was anywhere at 18 or below. So Matty here just says, if I'm not at that health breakpoint, Murphy cannot safely play his own Tamsin because he won't be able to kill Matty that same turn. And the counter punch is all too easy for Matty. He plays his own Blightborn Tamsin and the backfire. So Matty's got a checkmate position here, I think.
Looks that way.
Pick at the head for Murphy.
Then strike harder.
This ends up being a lot closer than I thought it would. It looks like Matty was in control all the way, but Murphy's plan certainly went okay.
Okay, hold on. Matty took 1 fatigue, so the backfire will deal 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is 9, plus the 3 from the backfire itself, which is 12. And then Murphy's natural fatigue will finish him off. So Tamsin backfire is lethal here. Oh, I didn't even count the Neophyte damage.
Yep, there's quite a lot hanging about there. So nicely worked out from Matty, and takes a 1-0 lead in a mirror we're going to see quite a lot of if this lineup does well today, which is by no means certain. It is going to be a battle of the lineups. This lineup versus the aggro lineup all day long, I should think.
Yeah, as early as the mid game, it felt like Matty had pulled too far ahead because he was the first to kind of force Murphy into an awkward position where he went for Soul Rend without developing any threats of his own and burning his own cards. Well, granted, both players burned their own cards just to get further through the quest, but I think the cards burned overall were more negative for Murphy because he lost a lot of that healing potential, which eventually snowballed into him having to take like a very awkward last couple turns to get the Blightborn Tamsin in hand. He did have the setup, but Matty saw through it at the last hurdle, and because he still had all this healing retained, it was just a simple calculation of staying above 18. He even had the Neophyte just in case something was miscalculated. As we saw it, either playing Neophyte or healing above 18 was enough to get Matty the win.
And that's a big win as well. We talk a lot in Conquest that not all 1-0 leads are equal, and getting your handlock out of there is a big deal in this mirror lineup. You said at the start about how difficult that handlock can be. Some people even considering dropping it before deciding, well, I guess we'll take the good deck. And yeah, Murphy still has to find a way to get it out of there, and Matty's is well out of there. He gets to play the really good decks now.
Indeed, the Garrote Rogue, I think, with a very solid matchup versus Handlock. That so much that I feel like Murphy has a better chance winning with Handlock versus Matty's last remaining deck, which is the Face Hunter. But we'll see if Murphy decides to queue it up again. Matty's Garrote Rogue list is the one I still love. Matty, a man after my own heart, still playing Kazakus rather than the Guild Traders there. And I am such a big fan of Kazakus because it gives you so many different options in different situations where you've maybe used one too many combo pieces. It can give you spell damage. Maybe your opponent set up an explosive trap and all your minions have 1 health. You can look for the golem that buffs your entire board by +2/+2, and that can give you a win condition as well. It can be a clunky card here and there, but I feel like if you don't have time to play Kazakus, you do have all these other sort of like small removal options as Rogue. And in the worlds where you don't need Kazakus, you're kind of winning already, in my opinion.
I agree for ladder 100%. I agree for tournaments about 80%. On tournaments, the Guild Trader does have that anti-warrior. If my rogue starts getting pinned down by a counter lineup where everybody's targeting it, well, Guild Trader allows me to sort of beat the warrior quite often now. So for a tournament, the people are bringing the Guild Trader, just sort of giving a nod to maybe somebody will try to counter my rogue. But I am with you that Kazakus is my personal favourite as well.
All right, Murphy is going on his second try with the handlock here, and it is very much the same things you're looking for versus Rogue in the mirror, in my opinion. Just Tour Guide Backfire. You want to make sure that you can condense the Giants all together later on, and the most efficient way of doing that is just playing early Tour Guide so you get the free taps, which progresses your quest. You can play Raised Deads even just on Tour Guides because that also progresses quest for very cheap, and then you want to drop a Neophyte together with the Giants towards the end. But for Matty, the name of the game is draw, 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 and right now he has access to none of that.
Yeah, it looked like a great starting hand, but it's deteriorated with that lack of draw. It changes the second he picks up a field contact. That changes the second he picks up any sort of his card draw. So he should still be looking good, but you always start getting slightly concerned when you get this hand as Rogue. It's like I'm one card away from winning this game, especially with double Brain Freeze hanging about for some sort of control of the board. But at the moment, no draw, no contact.
Yeah, that is highly concerning. Whereas for Murphy, he has both backfires ready to go already. I think he just slam one instantly here. The other one next turn is not certain, but we'll evaluate that based on what he draws off the first backfire. Null is decent, just to allow him to go like tap Null next turn or something. But for Matty, still no Shroud, no Swindle, no Passage, no Field Contact. Yikes.
Yep. And a wry smile as that was picked up. This happened a lot on stream yesterday.
Oh.
We saw a lot of people whiffing with Rogue.
A Tour Guide low-key insane here. It allows Murphy to fill out this last mana perfectly. It means that after these two minions die, they're like perfect targets for the Raised Dead pool because they're cheap. They get back out of the hand, which means you can still keep tapping even though you've also progressed your quest.
Difficult times for Matty. He absolutely does not want to use a Brain Freeze on this Null. Tempting though it looks. But the Plunderer, there's not even a Shadow Step to make it do good work. Coin and a million preps is so wasteful. Neophyte, not really where he wants to be. Really tough turn.
Yeah, I do think he ends up removing at least the Tour Guide here with the dagger. You can make the argument you don't remove the Null to not give Murphy a full Raised Dead pool at the moment. I do like the Neophyte this turn, and then Brain Freeze just to stave off some damage here. This play obviously feels bad if you end up top decking the field contact, but Matty just cannot afford to be tanking 5-6 damage every turn while waiting for that contact. He's made a play that gets better if he top decks Passage or Shroud.
Yep, and field contact's fine, right? If you draw a field contact, this hand's pretty powerful at that point, so even though it wouldn't be the ideal play if you drew it, you'd still be happy to draw it, so sort of hedging his bets either way.
So Murphy here, he has the possibility to do the fancy thing with Raised Dead because there's a Neophyte aura in play. Whether or not that's worth it, I'm unsure. I think it's fine because like you only have one thing in the Raised Dead pool anyway, so you're going to have the hand space for the Tamsin to give you back another Raised Dead and the Tour Guide. You play another Tour Guide and that's your quest progress. That's another cheap tap banked, and then okay, disagrees though. He is just going to go for Touch plus Neophyte, which feels like a bit of a frivolous use of Neophyte, but it's okay. He has Raised Dead.
Yeah, I think he might also be feeling the fact he actually hasn't got many threats, so maybe he actually feels he needs to Raised Dead a Null or at least a Neophyte just to buy a little bit more time himself, because there's no Giant in hand, is no Scavenger, just not looking... We've talked about Matty's hand being nothing, but actually Murphy's hand, while it's fine, is also kind of wobbly.
True. I mean, my whole idea with multiplying Raised Deads is just to kind of get cheap things out of your hand, so by the time you draw Giant, it is super cheap itself. But now there's another Neophyte aura. I am tempted to do this once again. Tamsin, Raised Dead, that's gotta be good.
Yeah.
If you get the Null, it's straight down to 1 mana because the hand fills up to 10 cards with this, I think.
Yeah, I really like it this time around. Especially with the pickup of a Netheron in the meantime.
True. Is it Netheron or Null here? Unfortunately, he cannot play both. And playing the other Raised Dead, I think, is just a moot point. Unless you just want to keep damaging yourself.
I think it's Netheron, not just because he just picked it up as I was speaking, but at least you can play a Null for 2, and Netheron you don't have that middle ground choice for mana usage, so just get it out there while you can. You might end up with an emptier hand later. I don't see how he would end up with an emptier hand with the hand he currently has, but maybe, you know?
Oh, okay. It is not a moot point. My mistake. I thought that you would get the copied Raise Dead after the minions, but I was wrong. The Raise Dead comes back before a minion, so that is super worth it to just get another Raise Dead in hand, I think.
Yes, got to be. Again, especially, even if there was any doubt at all, he's so threat light relative to what he would normally want that just get more threats. Matty's digging.
Passage is a welcome relief, but it has to be good, and these are... Okay, Swindle, decent.
So do you want to dump all of these cards just to get them out of your hand? Even though one's an Octobot, he's running out of time.
Yeah, we'll see first what comes off the Swindle. These are not amazing. So if you go Octobot, Penflinger, you don't have mana to play Kazakus, which is unfortunate. But I do like the idea of dumping at least the Penflinger, aside from One Thief here. One Thief is always getting played.
Yeah, the fact he's played it first makes me think he's going to trigger the Octobot here.
Oh, he goes Potion. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
He's kind of looking at Oasis Ally just to fill out the turn, but sure, I guess none of these minions are ever trading from Murphy by this point.
I think Potion, maybe he can get Kazakus into a little bit of card draw, into Potion, into a bit more card draw. He's desperate, right? He's looking for anything that might work.
Certainly feels like it. Murphy tapping away. Round 2 of the quest complete. Null available for 1 mana. He can Raise Dead and very likely get back more threats. More Knolls.
Or is it time to just load up the board?
More bones.
Can do both. Null, Raise Dead, more Knolls.
Sure.
Oh, misses on Null though. So I guess now you deviate to like Touch Drain Soul?
I'm trying to
You could say Tour Guide Drain Soul? Or what about Neophyte Touch? I've said you just drop Neophyte to protect all of your threats. Yeah, and as it turns out, this game didn't need Flesh Giants to be threatening for Murphy.
No, he found creative ways with the Thames and the Raised Deads, like you were pointing out, just to make sure he had plenty of threats, and yeah, he's good to go now. Looks like it's going to be over this turn. Matty does have some trickery with Plunderers and Potions, but I don't think he's got the mana to make that particularly work, especially when he's under a Neophyte.
There are Survive plays, maybe. It all involves getting the 1 mana shoot poison golem, though.
Efficient is sufficient.
And even then, it probably doesn't win him the game. There's so little mana or few cards to work with next turn for Matty if he does that, but it's really the only option to try and survive, I think.
I'm looking for a few good mercies.
He's going to go
For the Potions,
Kazakus.
so he would have cards to draw with if he happened to top deck a Contact somewhere.
True. Okay, there's the deal 3. I didn't see what the first keyword was, though. But I guess he doesn't need poison, actually. The Prize Plunderer can just happen at the end of this. Or in the middle of this.
Double Plunderer.
Man, it's a really awkward turn. You have to decide whether you want to copy the Plunder or the Golem. Okay, steps the Octobot. No? Okay. Man, this rope is giving me anxiety. So little time. Okay, Plunder, Step Plunder. I think it works. Did he kill the Knoll?
Don't think
of the
he put it
head
back
there.
down.
Give me that. Look what I
He did, but he couldn't kill the Neophyte, which is fine. He's alive to Battle Master. Oh, it is
He has
poison
got
deal.
the Poisonous deal 3, okay.
So he has answers for Giants now, if Murphy eventually finds them, and I think this is gonna be either a Soul Rend or a Backfire turn. It could be both, actually.
I can't see what he's so unhappy about. I mean, that's one of those turns where if you play it perfectly, good luck to you. It's an impossible turn, and he sort of got nearly all the things done. Oh, he's waving his Golem about, so maybe he has spotted a way that we missed, doing that twice and clearing up or something.
Maybe.
But I don't
This
think
is
that 3 damage is
Giants.
going to win or lose in the game. Drawing a Field Contact's going to do that next turn.
Oh, loses Giant and Ray's dead. So no big threat for Murphy this turn. Maddie maybe pulls this back, but he still needs field contact off the top right now.
Oh, I see his problem. I think he could have maybe gone card draw and he went for the poison route and didn't need it.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, possibly maybe he could have isolated the 8-6 instead of using 2 prize plunderers on it and ended with the golem, but that was impossible to calculate. But
Oh,
here we
Matty, go!
There is no time. Field contact right now.
Remember, the Octobot
Operation.
does nothing, by the way, if you're watching this wondering why he's not Octobotting.
Yes, it's a 1-1, which you cannot get the frenzy on a 1-1. Okay, second contact activated, in hand, which is amazing. So now you just swindle.
Even I don't double contact here, Gia. And I always double contact.
I double contact when I don't wear glasses. Aha.
Nice.
So many options.
Is it not just swindle here? You can make the argument you draw more off of this contact if you go Kazakus 1 cost again and 1 thief. That gets your contact 3 draws, whereas swindle and 1 card gets your contact 2 draws, but you get the same amount of cards in hand immediately because swindle itself draws you 2 cards. Okay, he's gonna go for the swindle though. And with 1 thief, there's simply no time to build a golem here. Brain freeze?
Going back. Yes, surely. Oh, Cone? No, Brain Freeze is cheap. Yeah. And draws cards. It's got to be Brain Freeze.
And now
Going
for
back,
Murphy,
that potion pickup was amazing from Matty. It's really
it
good in this chat.
was. Yeah, that was so clutch. I didn't even spot it at the time. But for Murphy, it looks bad, but it's not over yet, right? He's very close to getting his own Blightborn Tamsin on online. And when he gets that, I think Backfire is lethal. So where are we at on the quest?
I'm on the Matty train. I'm watching Matty try to count his guaranteed lethal, which he hasn't quite got.
No, I don't think it's quite there.
Because he's used both preps. I think there are lethals there, they're just not guaranteed lethals.
Backfire? Wait. Okay. He did that. Tamsin is in hand, but not playable though, so best thing Murphy can do is heal as much as possible this turn, but I don't think Murphy now has his own guaranteed lethal for next turn because he used Backfire. Not saying it's a bad play because he might not have been able to get Tamsin in hand in the first place without the Backfire. Oh, okay. He was just aiming for the Giant. Makes sense now.
Missed.
Garrot is intact.
Now he wins, Gia. I think it's guaranteed
so.
now. Because the Garrot's guaranteed to be drawn.
Well enough mana to do this. Field contact, Ethereal Aug Merchant. You have to 1 thief as well to receive the other proc of spell damage. So that's 3 mana. Yeah. And then you just play the Garrot that you got off the deck, which costs 2. And then you have the other Garrot, which costs 0. And then with your last remaining mana, you can play Kazakus as the last battle cry to draw all the bleeds.
Did he need to play 1 thief to get the 2 health minion down though?
Yeah, he still can. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. Can he? Wait.
I'm looking for a few.
I think this is still okay, but I'm not sure why he's doing it. Oh no, Maddie, you have no time to react. You have to just finish the turn. Oh!
He's got spell damage. He's locked out the spell damage.
It's fine. You don't need to play 1 thief anymore. You just play goal. Okay. This still works. It's fine. Yeah. Now you just go like Golem and any battle cry and it's okay, I think. This got so scary at the end after such an immaculate game with the Potion of Illusion, just for a creative win condition.
Wait, he hasn't played the golem, is it still enough?
Wait, what?
Enough. He forgot to play
He didn't play the golem? Oh no!
Is he gonna do it? Is the fatigue enough? It's not, it's 1 off, right?
It's not enough! Wait, are you kidding? Are you kidding? There were so many avenues to victory. Oh no!
Out of cards.
The stress.
I'm out of cards.
It is actually 1 off, right? Murphy's first fatigue happens this turn. No way, Lorinda. It can't happen like this.
And this was maybe at the very start of the meta this was a difficult one, but this was an easy lethal, right? I'm going to call it how it
think
is.
so.
There, you could play the One Thief, or when you mess up and play the Kazakas, you've still got enough mana for the One Thief, and you've got a Golem that gives you spell damage. And I think he just panicked and just didn't play the spell damage. Oh, I know what he did. So at the end of the last turn, he had 2 1/1s in play, and Murphy was on 26. So I think Matty countered that he only needed 8 3s, but Murphy then played a taunt. And I think maybe Matty had in his head that he still needed to just do 8 3s.
Yes,
The 24
I think
he did,
so.
and forgot he needed more spell damage. That's all I've got. I think he calculated it last turn and didn't update his brain.
I do think so as well. That makes sense to me. And actually, we don't even know what this last golem was, right? Maybe he didn't end up taking the
It
spell
was spell damage. He definitely took it.
It was?
I saw it flicker
Okay.
on, yeah.
So that is an unmitigated disaster. You have to call it what it is.
Yeah. He
But
looked at the
this is
health
the-
total at the end there, I think, and he realised it's 26, not 24. Sorry.
This is just what playing on stream can do to a person sometimes. We've seen this from the best of the best players, from countless grandmasters from every region messing up on Garrote Rogue guaranteed lethals. Even in a meta as old as this, it can happen. And Matty is a very good player, but as with all good players, playing on stream adds that next factor of stress that you don't necessarily account for. He's achieved most of this amazing win rate without the world watching. Can he pull it back together now that he's in the spotlight?
I mean, we have seen him a little. We saw him at DreamHack Beyond recently, a few weeks ago, admittedly, and he looked solid enough there. He looked comfortable enough there. Obviously, he's, like you say, maybe he did that without the pressure of everyone starting to say, hey, look out, this Matty's really good. That's when things get awkward, because you expect to play well, even though, yeah, the expectancy maybe puts more pressure on. But that was grim, and now he's got to not worry about it, because he's still got a good match on. It's still 1-1, you've both got your Warlocks out of there, and you're just playing normal Hearthstone, and this is a matchup where you very much don't want to make a mistake versus the Hunter.
I will say it's impossible for any normal human being to stop worrying about it. But one thing he can do is to power through the worry, shift his focus somewhere else. There is an Octobot in the opening hand. That's what you want to see versus Hunter. He has a good chance here. He just has to get the mental game back together. Whereas for Murphy, the opening hand contains a Felma, which is a card that we have had very mixed opinions on. But I will say, if you're running Wound Prey in the deck, that does somewhat make the Felma a bit better, right? Because the way people play around Felma is they play a lot of these small minions to get in the way of the Felma going face. Wound Prey gives Hunter a previously kind of rare tool to deal with 1 health minions of the shape of Og Merchants. So I can understand this from Murphy.
Yeah, I think it's okay against Rogue, because if they don't play a wide board, and they don't always, because sometimes they get what looks like the nuts, but it's just an open goal for 5 damage from time to time. So it's not the worst at all, I don't think, for Murphy in this position. And I'm not a Felmore enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
It's not a card I like at all.
Could have just stopped there. You're not a foul man, and I would have understood. I'm also not a foul man, woman.
Right, Matty needs to put into his head who he's going to talk to this about after the game and forget it until after the match. Like, round 5, sorry, failure, I'm just going to chat to you for 10 minutes about how dumb I am. But not now. Worry about it after this match.
Yeah. I mean,
File it under later.
it just happens to the best of us. Like, you could see from the mid game, Matty is an excellent Garrote Rogue player. He spotted a line to get him in a winning position. Just a little bit of the pressure at the winning position kind of was his downfall. But now he's faced with this Felma. Does he just tempo out the Octobot? Of course, in 2 turns time, there's a chance the Octobot gets eaten by the Felma. But on immediately turn 2, Murphy has 0 ways to kill that without it proccing. So Matty can just say, I'm going to play this now and proc it next turn if Murphy doesn't do it for me.
Oh.
Ooh. Dagger, though. Interesting. I was looking at Octobot and then follow up with a secret passage play, at which point you're pretty likely to get something to proc your Octobot, but not guaranteed. So I can understand if Matty just wants to make sure the Octobot gets a proc off.
He's going to have to do something now, though, right, Jir? Because this is becoming a lot of damage, and Rogue can't afford to take this early damage. So what's the best way for swinging this board back around?
You can go Octobot Plunderer Brain Freeze. dagger down something else
I wonder.
and call that a day. I mean, obviously it feels really bad to do all of that with the field contact. Maybe you step something at the end of it so that you have something to go with field contact the next turn.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that.
The alternative is passage and then hope you get things that can deal with the 3-2. There's a lot of them. Og Merchant, other Prize Plunder, other Brain Freeze. But the important thing for me here, in my opinion, is to end with a minion on board so that the Felmaw doesn't have a guaranteed face hit. Maddie's health total is very precious right now because he has the tools to win the game.
Yeah, this is
But just no time.
a guaranteed turn 7 or 8 if he can just get to turn 7 or 8. It's one of those boards where he's not going to need to win it.
Oh
with
my
the tempo.
gosh.
Just survive.
Maddie, do something! I'm so scared. Okay, he's going with the play we talked about. This is fine. It's fine. It's honestly 1 and 3 to be an amazing spot as well. If the Felmaw hits the 2-1, Maddie can then step his Octobot and have that go along with a, say, like field contact passage turn. And even then, leaving up the Prize Plunder is not terrible for Matty because that's also a good step target in this matchup. But Murphy does, however, have the answer for the Prize Plunder. It's off curve for him, but I think this is totally worth a Wound Prey or even the Crescent.
Are there greedy thoughts going through his head about how to get his piercing shot off? He'll get it off later, like one way or another, so he should be fine.
The snowballing implications of not Octobot on 2 were big. It kind of allowed Murphy to just play minions on board and not be bothered about developing because he wasn't going to give Matty a free proc. And now Matty doesn't really have time to go Shroud. I agree, this has to be passage. He needs an immediate answer for the Felmaw without having to face tank it.
Plenty of answers in there, mainly in the form of Brain Freezers, but also Plunderers, second passage. That's a decision now, right? Swindle or passage?
I was thinking Swindle or Kazakus, honestly, because obviously Kazakus is slow, but that's one of the cards that allows you to go for the very rare healing in Rogue. If you get deal 3 to 2 lifesteal, that's kind of amazing versus Hunter. He will have to face tank 5 in the meantime, but the thing is, the Swindle is not guaranteed to give him a clear on the Felmaw anymore.
Yeah, and he's going to... Well, he looks like he's going to go with your choice, but he's just going to make sure... Still trying to recover a little bit for that last game, I feel, just taking a bit of extra time. And he's going to look for that.
5 cost. Does he go 1, maybe, because he has contact? I could see that as well. But he did take 5, didn't hit lifesteal, but there is the deal 3 to 2. We'll see what the keyword is in a moment. But for Murphy, this becomes so clear now, right? Okay, rush deal 3,
yeah.
That's Subtle's least favorite. Because it never works out the way you want to. The thing you want to rush into gets 3 damage dealt to it, and suddenly the trade looks a lot worse. Whereas for Murphy, this feels like a pretty simple piercing shot to me.
Yeah, it looks like it clears out the curve. Aim shot Wound Prey does put 1 extra damage on the board, but I can't see that being particularly exciting for anybody. You can fit that in later if needed.
There is a world where you save the piercing shot to go with Wound Prey, because technically piercing shot on a Kazakus only deals 3 to face, whereas on Wound Prey it would deal 5. But that's not mana efficient, and also leaving the Kazakus on board means that your opponent doesn't even have to think about how they're dealing with the Felmaw. I kind of like this piercing shot, and then Murphy can gain additional damage from his next couple draws, almost certainly.
Okay, terrible pickup. This is where obviously the Felmaw's not as good.
Yeah.
Bill might have to play it, I think, because there's not much else going on this turn. So does he want to weave in a hero power with the aim shot instead?
We can count this up, right? Aim shot hero power is always 7 at some point, and then he has 2 charges on his true aim, which is 9, and then Wound Prey for 10. So he needs 5 extra damage, which will probably come in the form of more hero powers. It might even come in the form of a Rinling's Rifle re-equip. So we could see this turn be Felmaw hero power into Rinling hero power, and then aim shot Wound Prey hero power. That'll deal the lethal over 3 turns, I think. But he's gonna... committing the Wound Prey now, it's almost certainly the same thing, right?
Yeah, and it spends the mana, gets it on the board for an extra damage if he wants it next turn.
Like this, just spend your mana. Maddie has so little time to pull this back now. Shroud. Okay, Flinger. Octobot. Lorinda, could this be a double contact game? It might be his only road to victory, not even kidding. I'm looking at like Octobot, Penflinger, Step Octobot. That will return the Octobot and the Flinger to your hand. So you have yet another discount, and then you just have like a 1 mana and 2 mana field contact. Is that guaranteed lethal? Probably not. Is it his best chance? I don't know. Maybe.
I think it is, and I'm going to say that, and I had already spotted it was on the way as a possibility, but maybe he just leaves the contact there to present extra damage to make the other contact have an easier job in life. He's got a Garrote in hand.
That's fair. One of the biggest punishes for leaving a field contact on board, Maddie has already seen in the piercing shot. If there's Rhino, I think he was going to lose one way or another, so I can see this line also. Again, not guaranteed, but if the contact miraculously somehow lives, then he just goes for the non-guaranteed Garrote lethal. Oh my god!
Oh.
Second piercing! Okay, Maddie's dead.
Yep. Well,
I mean, even if he gets 6 damage to face and there's contact Garrote Octobot in hand, there's just not enough mana.
Oh,
right?
He needs to get 16. I think you're right, but I'm gonna as much as I can here. He's got 16. He can get double spell damage, so he needs to hit 4 times.
So what you're saying is, with one battle cry, draw all 3 bleeds in a row. So
can he make that into 2 battle cries? But yes, that's what I'm saying, give or take.
Okay. I don't think he has mana to do it, so this is the only out, right? It's contact, step the ethereal augmentation. Oh, sorry, he has 1 more mana after this. Oh, but because of that breakpoint, I thought that he would like replay the Ethel before going for the Garrote, right? Because that would make him 1 off, even if he draw all the bleeds here, right?
If I counted right, which isn't always a given.
Fair enough, but I agree with you.
It looks like he can afford to hit 1 or 2. There's still 5 damage, so 14. So he can afford a bleed at like half price or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Okay, well, now it's impossible, I think. Right? Because there's only 3 bleeds.
12, 17. No, we counted right the first time. Yeah, we counted right.
Yeah. It was impossible with this. I mean, obviously it was super unlikely with the other out. Like you were saying, with 2 battle cries, you have to draw all the bleeds. But this line, I think it was actually 0%. Whereas for Murphy, this is as simple as aim shot and hero power. And he is on match point.
Yep. From where Matthew sat, I guess there's an outside chance that he wasn't dead this turn in occasional worlds. Maybe.
True.
I don't think so. I think you're right. I think he just had to go for it and rip it all out. All right, 2-1 to Murphy, and Matty clearly under the effects of the botched game number 2. So he needs to get himself together super quick.
Yeah, I didn't really want to say it at the time, but I think it started to snowball into a bit of a bad situation. I guess there was another out there, thanks Hoddle for bringing it up, the chance of drawing prep for the other Garrote, but I really don't know the odds on that. Oh man.
So, that was a tough one. Right from the start though, it's weird because he had the Octobot field contact start, which looks so good, but the Felmore actually put in a good shift and didn't find a brain freeze to remove that with early on either. So Matty was really struggling for a game plan because he hasn't got the board control game plan very easily with the hand he had. But he also didn't really have enough time to go for the combo game plan, so he was caught in the middle there, which does sometimes happen with your hand in Rogue.
Murphy himself left on the Garrote Rogue now, and we are going to see the mirror, but not a true card-for-card mirror because Murphy is not a Kazakus fan. he is a fell man. He has the talented Arcanist in there instead of the Kazakas, which we have already discussed, has this weird interaction where if you play Arcanist, every bleed you draw has spell damage +2, and that aura is only removed when you then play another spell. And because of field contact, you don't necessarily need to play spells to draw cards, so that has a lot of combo potential, but I suspect in the mirror, it is much more difficult to kind of maneuver that because Arcanist, you don't generally play it until you're at the very bottom of your deck, and in the mirror, I think it's much more likely to be a board-based battle, at least for the mid-game.
Yeah, I feel like Arcanist is pretty weak in the mirror overall. Just setting it up does take time. Not a lot of time, obviously, otherwise people wouldn't play it, but it is more for those slower matchups where you just want that extra... you want to be able to waste spell damage in the mid-game, which in the straight combo war you don't care about so much. I say it's straight combo war, you can just get the board right as well.
Wait, both players have Swindle and Shroud. Okay. I mean, this is not always the nuts in the Rogue Mirror, right? You can have this hand and say if there's no prep and your opponent just has like Neophyte on curve, you feel very sad. You're going to take a lot of damage in the early game. But both players have hit the more kind of combo potential half of their deck where they're going to have a lot of cards. There's going to be a high potential to discount many cards with Octobot, and both players will be popping off with enormous field contact turns. I'm assuming, though, that both players will eventually find Octobot and field contact. Murphy has one of those things. Matty has neither of them. Oh, for Matty here, for Murphy, I was really looking at just Neophyte on curve. I think that's super strong in the mirror. If your opponent's not playing minions of their own, it is very likely to shut down a Shroud on curve for them, and then you can just hit them for 3. But there's also a world where Neophyte later on in the mirror shuts down their combo potential.
He's just gonna go super wide, right? So what this is declaring?
Not quite. It's just a halfway approach from Murphy. It's a good setup, I suppose. Like, this is good enough. Even if you draw field contact off the top, this hand is always going to be good enough. So I can respect that he is respecting Matty's own potential of going Neophyte or something.
Yeah, something that happens if you do go super wide there, I found, is sometimes they just have the answers to all your 1 and 2 health minions with their prize plunderers, etc., and you just lose the board and you've lost the game because you don't have the third wave of doing it.
Right. Okay, well, this certainly is a Swindle turn, but how to activate it is another question. Wow, he's using Brain Freeze just to activate, or like, kind of surprised by this, honestly. I thought it would be Neophyte.
Picking that contact up changes everything about what he was going to do this turn.
Now he plays nothing, I think, just swings and re-equips. Or not, he's going in with contact now. Okay, fair enough. It's 3 battle cries, but it's not protected by a Neophyte, so there's a world where Matty can deal with this off of his own One Thief, for example. But if he can't deal with it, Murphy gets huge dividends.
I think Matty kind of can deal with it. At least, I don't know if he can kill every single thing, but look at his hand. It's just full of Orc Merchants and Plunderers and nothing else, and it's going to actually have a use, all that stuff that he didn't really want.
But he'll be behind at the end of it. I think Murphy was kind of already calculating, if I haven't seen an Octobot, if Matty deals with this entire board. I mean, he hasn't seen a One Thief too, so there can't already be something like a Fire Sale in hand, for example. So Matty, if he's going to deal with the whole board, is going to take his entire turn, and he's not going to be drawing cards off of it, whereas Murphy has. So I think this is a fine exchange for Murphy, even though Matty can clear the majority of this.
Yeah, and Matty's awkwardness about how this looks shows that it's not a trivial decision like I thought maybe it was, where you could just start plundering things here. Drawing the second plunderer does make it a lot more tempting, though, surely.
Even if we just see like 5 1-drops here, I don't hate it, but I think it's more likely to be 3 1-drops in Neophyte.
That's an upgrade, probably.
The Ethereal Og Merchants still have a bit of utility later when you're going for like a mini combo with Octobot. Like a lot of the time, you only need the Garrots to deal like 16 damage in this matchup rather than 24 or 32. So Plunder. Oh, is he going 5-1? Okay. He's going both Og Merchants, but retaining Prize Plunder. Fair enough.
Yeah, keeping one ethereal as you suggested for the Shadow Step later. And this is just a buying time turn, really, isn't it? He's cleared up the board. He doesn't expect it to survive because it's not mega wide and he's left us some things up, but it looks like a pretty good turn from where he started.
And the Neophyte is very annoying for Murphy here because I think he was planning on this being a passage turn. If he wants to do that now, I guess he could use prep before it, but it really weakens a lot of the possibilities from his passage because he would like to get like Shroud or Swindle off of that, and the Neophyte would still make those more expensive. So instead he's taking the whole turn just to wait out the Neophyte aura and set up the Oasis ally, which is a pretty good secret for the situation, to be fair.
Oh, the word situation sums up where Matty's at in general right now. He's got a situation and it's a very bad one. Just not quite being able to keep up with the tempo here.
I like starting
help,
with
though.
the passage. He wasn't sure if this was counterspell or something, so starting with Shroud seemed pretty irresponsible. I like the passage because even if it's not counterspell, you still generally get to spend your mana really well, and if it is counterspell, then you just go Shroud.
Got you.
Okay, now he has Contact Prep Swindle, seems pretty strong.
It's quiet.
It's about the same size of Contact as what Murphy went for, right? Murphy had like 3 Battle Cries. Maddie is getting 1 draw off the Contact here and likely to get 2 more. Or not. What? Oh, that's so unlucky. Oh, no. And the ally is enormous here if he trades into a minion. That's kind of GG. I think he has to send the Neophyte face. Yeah, it also plays around rigged fair game.
And just dump one of these. Just dump an Octobot. It's not a very nice thing to have to say about the Octobot, but it'll be okay. It'll probably get its use.
And again, I guess he didn't even have that many 1-cost minions left, right? Because he played so many on the cleanup turn.
Does Murphy have to try and set up, or can he even set up a prize plunderer here to take down the Octobot?
Yeah, easily, I think so. Prep,
Yeah.
Swindle, you play something from the Swindle, you play Neophyte, and then your plunder is up to 4.
Oh, and yeah, he's got everything.
The downside is he doesn't get to go for his own passage this turn. But I think that's worth it to deny Octobot discounts.
It's a 9 mana Octobot if it goes off. 8 if he procs it now. That sounds dangerous going into turn 7 against a rogue with nearly full hand.
Okay, he's going passage instead, which makes me believe there's another prize plunder in the deck, but if he misses that, man, that's risky, because that means Maddie gets to get his own Octobot go off. That's a disaster. I thought Murphy would just hold off on the passage this turn. Combustion, never mind, we're fine.
Yeah, Matty was all excited there because I think he realised that this was down to Murphy hunting. He didn't realise there's a plunderer already in hand, obviously, but he's going to be very disappointed when he sees this combustion.
Oh, and the hot streak as well! Now he can dump everything. Put the Penflinger back in hand as well. That's disgusting. Man, Murphy was playing real risky there. He did not have a guaranteed 1-shot kill on the Octobot.
And that would have been, I think that would have been pretty fatal. I mean, as it happens, there's no contact in hand for Matty, but...
I think he roped out as well. That Penflinger could have returned to the original hand. And it could have killed the Neophyte because he played Hot Streak and Combustion there. I think that's a mistake from Murphy. There's 2 mana spare, right. So...
Yep.
Okay, this is a disaster for Matty, but he moves on, just prays that Murphy has no further card draw. There's still the other field contact, but it's not in hand for Murphy right now. So Matty needs to be thinking about how he can set up his own counter lethal. He has 1 Ethereal Aug Merchant and an Octobot, which can go off on 8 cards here, which is pretty good.
Efficient is sufficient.
Thing is,
Your opponent
I think
won't do it for you.
He's committed to not trading on board. He can still use Battle Cries like the Penflinger and the Prize Plunderer to deal with these minions, but he didn't proc Oasis last turn, so I don't think he's going to do it this turn either. I like one Thief that's going to have Stealth.
Yep. Try and find some card draw as well.
Ignite, sure, that's Reach. Can matter sometimes. Send it face. Plays around Oasis and Rig Fair once again, and Murphy with a terrible hand. He has to passage again, and he's just kind of getting pressured on board here as well.
Yeah, we should have a look at that as well, because both Garots are in Matty's hand and some spell damage. So that's just a lot of damage chilling in his hand, and the Ignite.
There's no card draw, but you know, he could get contact off the top, so it's a very real possibility. Okay, Murphy, this is kind of terrible because he wanted this Shroud to draw him the field contact, so it would then return to the original hand. But because the contact came off the passage itself, that's, yeah, it has to be used with a Shadow Step now, but that's like 1 card returning to original hand instead of 2.
So many options.
Still has to do it though, I agree.
Reminder that he is playing the Arcanist build, so it's not such a disaster losing the Shadow Step compared to the normal problem you have with your Orc Merchants, so he can afford to waste this. It's not fun, but I think he has to do it.
Meanwhile, Matty, I think, has both Shadow Steps remaining as well, so it's a big deal to get rid of both the Neophytes here as Murphy. Like, he cannot afford to let anything live if he's going for his own lethal, and I don't even think it's possible next turn because the Garots are full cost. Or it's like not guaranteed, I should say. For Matty though, no card draw in hand. There's a chance to get it with Kazakus, and it kind of feels like he has to take the risk now.
So many options.
You're right, I'm just looking at how much damage he actually has in some situations here. If he gets a 1-3 Fireball, for instance, with the Arcanist in hand, and the double Garrot, and the Ignite. But I think you're right, I think he has to go for a card draw.
You can still see what's in the 1 Thief before he decides to go Garots, but I like starting with Kazakus. You take the 1 cost Golem, aim for draw, ideally. And if you miss, spell damage, I guess.
Oh, what is this?
No time to think, just take Divine Shield, move along. These are terrible. Now you take the deal 3. And now you just, like, I think, play 1 Thief. Try to look for any burn damage. There's just no time to think. Maddie, go, go, go! Brain Freeze. Yeah, now you just clear all the minions, right? So you don't take any additional damage. And
put the Garots in the deck. I just want to put the Garots in there. And if a draw 6, unlucky.
But you can't play both and the Brain Freeze? Okay, so he's just not going to play Brain Freeze. Sure. Oi, oi, oi. Okay, no Garots in the deck, no board space, but that's okay. If the board sticks, he probably wins next turn. But Murphy on the backswing, can he take a lethal? There's an outside chance. Okay. Octobot, so if he goes Octoprocto, 2 mana left, you can exactly play Field Contact, Garrot, and a Battle Cry.
No space for the Arcanist.
Yeah, it's never there. It's like 16 max even if you draw all the bleeds. And then 17 with Dagger, I guess. I think Maddie's done it. If he can get his own lethal next turn, seems very likely.
Actually counted it. 6, 7. It's loads because he makes space with a Penflinger when he plays the first spell as well.
Yeah, so Murphy's only play here is to just hold the Garots, I believe. Because on the off chance that he's not dead, he still has to kill Matty the next turn. Maybe with a top deck Arcanist, that's possible. I think Murphy just plays Neophyte Plunderer. Yeah.
Now we have to recount all the lethals because I'm not certain that Matty has that much space to give.
Wait, let's count. There's 5 on board. Garrot. Each Garrot will deal 3 with the Ethereal Aug Merchant. So that's 6. Ignite is lethal, right? Especially with the Dagger.
Okay.
You don't even need to draw bleeds. You just need to attack first with the Penflinger face. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's just good practice. You play Ethereal Aug Merchant on a 1 Thief.
So many options.
Yeah. 11. I mean, okay, 5 on board, right?
Yeah.
For my discretion.
6 with
Each
the
Garrot deals 3. 11. Dagger 12. Ignite deals 4. 16. It's fine. He's got it.
Okay.
It's very scrappy, but he's got it. Man.
Oh, he will be a relieved man.
Not quite. There's still another game, Lorinda, but I guess he doesn't have to play Garrot Rogue anymore. That's a big deal. Wait. Maddie, boy, why?
Is the Ignite? Was the Ignite 4?
There's spell damage.
Okay.
It deals 4.
Going crazy?
It deals 3? Sorry, 3. Deals 3. But that's enough, right? With the dagger? I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe it was 1 off. Maybe I miscounted somewhere. Sorry. But this bleed is not... Wait, okay. He got it off in time. Oh, just barely.
Wow. He will be glad to see the back of that deck, Gia.
I'm just
Now-
wondering if I miscounted. I'm pretty sure it
I think
was
you had the. I think
just
you
with
counted the
Ignite,
igniters
yeah.
for. I think you counted the igniters.
I did, but
So-
I also counted that one over lethal, so I think it was 15, right? Okay, there was 5 on board. There's a dagger, 6. Each Garrote deals 3.
12.
11. Yeah, sorry, 12. 12.
And ignite.
And then, yeah, 15. Oh, it's fine. He found an alternate line. And I did mess up the counting as well, but I'm pretty sure the Ignite was guaranteed lethal. Oh man, what a series,
Nice.
Lorinda. It's melting all our brains.
Well, we're back to the other way round now on the Hunter versus the Rogue match, and we've seen this already. There's a Moonfang here, which makes very little difference, I think. If anything, it's a little slow, but basically it's all the same.
Yeah, I think Moonfang is not in there for the Rogue matchup. You want to have as best a chance at getting Rhino as possible versus Rogue, in my opinion, from your Warsong Wrangler. And the Moonfang is actually not that hard for Rogue to kill. They have a lot of ping effects, so it's trivial. It also can just be frozen if that's a minion that is caught by the Warsong Wrangler. The Base Hunter versus other decks, I do understand why the Moonfang is in there. I think it's great versus Handlock and Demon Hunter, but it is the Garrote Rogue matchup, so that one's going to be a bit low priority in my opinion.
Yep, it's going to be down to... I mean, what do you think is favoured here? Because I personally feel the Rogue is okay in this matchup, but we don't seem to see it win that often.
I think it's Rogue favored, especially with this list. I mean, even before Moonfang came in the list, I felt that Rogue was always in a good spot, but you do need to play in a certain way that is not the instinct for Rogue. Like, you don't go for super greedy Octobots, you just drop it as soon as possible. You go for, like, mid-sized field contacts. You take little damage to face and then try to get over the top with... Wait.
Oh.
Huh? That is not a face hunter.
Yeah, I thought the Demon Hunter was banned. It
Yeah,
definitely...
me too. Oh,
They definitely
no.
seemed to both be banned at the start.
Yeah, okay, we do need to consult admins about this first. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, he did ban the Hunter.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
so
cool.
apparently we had a graphical error. Matthew does not get a game loss. Murphy, at the start of the series, apparently banned Hunter and not Demon Hunter. We're getting confirmation now. That is a big relief. I did not want to see the series end in such a way that there was a def win. So Maddie is going to be playing Demon Hunter versus Rogue, which is decidedly favored for the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, and this is actually when you broke it down all the way back about 17 hours ago at the start of this match. You were saying that this is usually the ban because this is one of the matchups you just don't want to happen. So
I think so, yeah.
I agree with you. Even I don't like this at all for the Rogue.
Whether you're on the Arcanist version or not, I think it's tough for the Rogue because it might even be tougher if you're running Arcanist because Arcanist is there if you need more damage towards the end of the game, in my opinion. You do need to see the bottom of your deck.
Matty, the nod of their head is the whole give it me one time, and then he just gets the Spectral Side. He's like, yeah, now we're going. And Murphy's hand, although it could develop into a good one, Gia, looks like an absolute nightmare for the next 2 or 3 turns.
It does, doesn't it? It also doesn't look like it has that much capability to play around Glide, which is my #1 priority playing Garrote versus Demon Hunter. There's nothing that's truly dumpable, right? Because Ethereal Og Merchant is a combo piece. Okay, I guess Guardian is not necessary, but like the Octobot, you need to discount a hand post-Glide ideally. So what we could see is like back-to-back Secret Passage turns to just maybe thin his deck of 1 or 2 cards.
Efficient is sufficient.
Hey,
Hey.
Octobot on curve is fine as well, because that can actually make his secret passages have more mana available to play the cards.
The reward for Matty's turn 1 gamble coming up now.
I don't necessarily think it's a gamble. Like, you can just go for studies on 1 if you know that it's quickly gonna get to the left of your hand, right? If you're not committed to really doing anything else on turn 2 other than quest and a card, then it makes sense to just play studies so that whatever you discover is 1 space further to the left compared to how it would be if you played it on turn 2.
Got you, that makes a lot of sense. It's going to work out for him, though, knowing that ordering and working that ordering out.
Going to finish quest with double jump and then spectral sight to overcomplete, it looks like. Oh, sorry, this is already quest done, my bad. So that means it's sigil this turn and then just bank the spectral sight for quest stage 2 next turn. Problem is he's ended up with these 2 Arcanists for the discounts very early on, which is not amazing.
Yeah, they're just going back in the deck at some point, unless he wants to thin the deck out by dumping 1 early and getting rid of this Octobot, which is what he's going to do.
Okay, I like this a lot, because you just mentioned it, right? The Arcanists are very likely to go back in the deck at some point before he gets Kirchhoff online because of the glides. So just use 1 to deny Murphy of any discounts right now.
Field contact changes the shape of everything for Murphy. Obviously, he's lost the Octobot now, but the rest of it now with the field contact pickup, the race is on.
Yep. Okay, dumpable card, not dumpable card, not... Oh no! That's so unlucky! Are you kidding me?
Seriously considering putting the Garrote in there. The problem with that, right, is that it just gets... If that goes off a couple of bleeds, it just gets healed up and that's the end of the game.
I don't think you can, especially not with the Arcanist version, right? Because Arcanist is not doing anything if you don't have bleeds in your deck.
I mean, is there a way that 1 Garrote can get there with Arcanist and double Orc Merchant? That's a lot of damage.
Hold on, that's 4 spell damage. So each bleed is dealing 6. That's 24.
Okay. So if you had a semblance of a board.
Technically 22, because you have to play the base Garrote before you play the Arcanist, right?
Right, yes.
So it's not completely like messed up for Murphy, even if he draws all the bleeds early on. But it's tough to get this done, and that's the level of respect he's paying to Glide right now. Not taken by Maddie because he wants to get this level of quest done right now. Understandable. Like, he would have wasted all that draw if he took Glide here with like a 4 out of 5 quest completion.
Gain momentum. If Matty gets out of this match with the win, gain momentum will be the most well-worded thing, because surely he will have to win the Swiss if he wins this round, after what has transpired during this match.
We can call it regain momentum, perhaps.
Okay, let's go with that.
Certainly lost it at some point.
Agreed.
One Thief. Ignite. Only thing that does anything. Oh, this is such a disaster. I think he's meant to prep Brain Freeze his own One Thief here as well. Just get it. Delete cards from the deck.
Yep. And he's already made the decision to start getting stuff out there, right? Because of the Garrote, so... Oh. He might need that Ignite damage, I guess.
Oh, prep Ignite. Wow! So he's just put a card into his deck. I don't know about this. Like, I think you take Ignite and just have it in your hand, but it's a terrible top deck in the near future.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think he's bothered about his hand space at the moment. But he did at least go for the prep Brain Freeze to delete those cards, which I agree with. Okay. Matty, however, struggling to get the final layer of the quest done. His hand is full of removal. If he top decks Il'gynoth at some point, can we look at like a turn 9 lethal? Not even, right? Everything else is 1 mana, not 0.
No, not yet, I don't think. Unless there's an
Okay.
I-beam chance somewhere along the line.
Well, Murphy, with his previous line of playing around Glide every single time, like he should have a read on it not being in hand, because Maddie would have ripped it, I think, last turn, even if it wasn't Outcast, just to finish his quest. But yeah, Murphy wasn't really gonna get that much additional discounted if he waited with the Octobots. Fair enough, he's going off now.
Oh no.
Maximum damage flying away right before his eyes. He's tossing an Ethereal Aug Merchant in as well. What's the win condition, Lorinda? I don't see it. Maddie might just win by playing like Hellscream last year, right?
Yeah, I think that Murphy has seen, hey, I can get a wide board in the world where they don't have Immolation Aura. Maybe this does something because I'm in deep trouble.
Okay.
And in this world, there is an Immolation Aura and another one and a Fellscreen Blast. This is not the world where Murphy was hoping to end up.
Yeah, I mean, Matty had 6 cards in hand, 7 even, without being able to finish quest. There's gotta just be removal in there if that's the case, in my opinion. Okay, what's Murphy's max damage now? With Garrot, 1 Ethereal, I guess a Shadow Step still left in the deck, so we can count that as 2 Ethereals. Yeah, so it's still like 24 plus the Ignite.
She can play more than once, potentially, in some turns.
But there's no Octobots left.
I'm not going to try and work out.
Just to win. He just fatigues Murphy. I think that works here.
I mean, what's the world? How does he get multiple ignites in a turn? That's the world where Murphy wins, and I can't picture that at all right now.
No, I don't think it's possible. Maybe, okay, one thief left. Can he generate Springwater? Just turn into Quest Mage or something? I'm losing it.
He needs to turn into something, because at the moment he's got no ways of drawing cards, no ways of doing damage, and no ways of not getting killed. So he's in a little spot of bother, one might say.
Just a tiny little spot of bother. Meanwhile, Maddie dealt with that entire win condition with 1 mana for 1 card. Amazing. Ignite, terrible top deck, as we've talked about.
Put the Garrot in there to get out your deck thinned out, and then pick up Ignite to draw it later.
The way that Matty is progressing, I think he can do the normal Demon Hunter thing of Il'gynoth and win the game with that. But I would pay good money to just see him win off fatigue here, because that is also a very real avenue to victory. Because Murphy has used 1 Garrot, 1 Ethereal Aug Merchant. There's just not that much damage left in the deck.
Yeah. Again, I keep on about the Ignites, but that's in the world where you literally do nothing to try and fatigue them. As it happens, he will be hitting him with some stuff at the same time, obviously. But yeah, Matty's going to be a sensible boy, which makes sense given the series he's just had, I think. Let's be sensible, people.
I was wondering if he should dump Immolation Aura first, like before anything hits the board, because...
I think he was trying to hit Il'gynoth, and he's hit it, Gia. That's lethal next turn, right?
Yeah. I mean, like in the world where he doesn't draw Il'gynoth, you might have to spend mana on Acrobatics, which means you need some hand space as well. So I was looking at dump Immo, because Murphy has like no cards left. But very small things. Maddie has this one in the bag.
Wow.
What a way to end the series, Lorinda.
I mean, we told you Matty is just the best player right now, and he's done nothing to make us think any other than that in this entire series. No mistakes, absolutely clean.
Don't be mean.
What a series. I'm
not...
Poor Matty.
I'm not one to throw shade at players. I'll just call it like it is. He messed up a lot of times, but he also, I will say, showcased one amazing stroke of genius with the Potion of Illusion. That I'm still hung up on. Like, if a player can think to do that, you know they have the potential to be the best, right? If they're at best condition, if they're used to playing under pressure. I think this series has showcased that's not quite there yet for Matty, but he will win the thing overall. He has 3 more rounds of Swiss to go through, and if he continues at this pace, we will see him in the top 16.
Yeah, I've seen players before, and I mean, I've seen Matty several times. I've always found him not to be a player who makes many mistakes, to be fair. But I've seen players before at 4-0, high up in the Swiss, make a mistake at the start of the day, and it ruins their day. I think if he'd lost this match, he may have finished 4-4. He just looked done. During game number 3, he just looked absolutely done. But he saved it, he's pulled it out. And now he can just go and have whatever it is, a coffee, something, put that one behind him and move on in the Swiss. And yeah, I was being mean because he made a mistake that allowed me to be mean. I suspect that'll be the one for the entire next decade. So I'm going to take
I should hope so. I mean, come to think of it, that's how Darek and I were about surrender, because every time he made a mistake, it was so rare, but we just went in because we were never going to see it again. And we really won't because he's retired. Boo-hoo. But
he has. I mean, that's not binding until he gets the email saying, "Are you coming back?" So we shall see.
True. Also, a lot of potential for new blood as well. That's why we are playing these Masters Tours in the first place. I really hope that Maddie can pull it together for the rest of the Swiss, because he's maintained his immaculate win rate, not in the cleanest way. Murphy was far from playing a perfect series as well, but that's going to be less and less likely to face up into opponents like that as you move up in the Swiss and eventually make the top 16. That is just round 4 for you guys.
Yeah, and that was one heck of a match to start the day with. That's back-to-back amazing matches if you count the last one last night for different reasons, but this was exciting. It contained great play, it contained mistakes that everybody can understand, but Matty did come out the winner. So we are going to take a break there, and we will be back in just a moment with some more round 4 action.
We're looking for brains. Not those kind of brains. Gaming brains. Impressive. Wait, are we going into your brain?
We have a new champion.
Uh-oh. Powerful brains. No. Yes! Oh, okay. Maybe too powerful? And the most brilliant brains on the planet. Ooh, not such a brilliant move.
This stupid carry.
Creative brains.
The word is spell. She cast a fire spell on Illidan.
And amazingly talented brains. Spell it for him, Zaila.
Spell. S-P-E-L-L. Spell.
I got the spell on me again.
Brains that make dreams come true. Is that what goes on in your brain? Hey, leave that alone. Introducing Hearthstone Mercenaries. There's a game for all brands.
Everybody, welcome back to Masters Tour Stormwind. We have a little bit more round 5 coverage before we move on. I'm TJ, joined by the one and the only Derek Brown. Derek, you didn't get the memo. Flamingo Shirt Day was yesterday.
Duh. I knew I'd missed something. I'm sorry.
But glad to have you back. and that you're feeling at least somewhat better to be able to cast with me today. I knew you couldn't resist. But what a doozy of a match to start off round 5. I think we picked correctly for the featured match.
Yeah, you did. It was very gracious of you to welcome me in nice and warmly with an APAC-style match of just throwing Garrote Rogue back and forth. It made me feel right at home. But moving on to one of the other matches that we have on round 5 to start off the day. Pocket Train versus Kevin. Very happy that I get to cast Pocket Train. I can't remember if I've actually cast any of his matches before, but he is one of the rising stars amongst the UK. Obviously, with Ball Control a while ago, hanging up his, his deck. I don't know what you do when you retire as a competitive Hearthstone player, and joining the design team. It's really Deaddraw who is our primary competitive player right now, but I think that Pocket Train, as he has been improving and improving, grinding away on ladder, is a real worthy title holder for the new breed of good UK Hearthstone players.
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely has shown some promise in the limited amount of time that I've seen him, but certainly a fantastic player in his own right. But let's get into it. We are going to be jumping into Game 3 here, I believe, which is a OTK Demon Hunter mirror for both players. So quite the interesting match to get into right off the bat. What surprised me so far this tournament has been the amount of Vipers in a lot of decks. I know that there are some weapon-based strategies that players are worried about. The Aggro Elemental Shaman with the Doomhammer package, as well as potentially Poison Rogue. But it has been in a lot of decks that we've seen on these featured shows.
Yeah, I think the Poison Rogue is the big one. This is like the big difference between ladder and competitive tournament players. That on ladder, you're not really going to see too many Poison Rogues, at least once you hit the legend rank. I'm not so sure about the lower ranks. It's not really my territory, TJ. But in tournament play, Poison Rogue, Weapon Rogue always pops up. It's always a reasonable bring, I think, in these tournaments, just because it catches players off guard. We often talk about how aggro decks keep the greedy decks in shape or in check at the moment. But I think Poison Rogue, Weapon Rogue is really the deck that's doing that right now. It forces these greedy control decks or combo decks to have some form of an answer to a Swine Tusk Shank on curve. So I'm a fan of the Vipers being included in all of these lists. And if there's one thing that I will trust Pocket Train on 100%, it is the OTK Demon Hunter. He has been grinding this deck non-stop for the past few weeks, playing, as he has self-confessed, hundreds and hundreds of games, all the way up to rank 1 legend. And so I think even before we see the hands, the start of this game, he is in a very good spot just because of his extreme level of expertise in the deck.
Yeah, and they are mirrored lineups, 30 for 30 cards. So a true mirror match in every sense. Actually, not in every sense. That's a lie. There's some things that aren't mirrored, but you know what I mean. Maybe you don't know what I mean. There's a lot of things that aren't mirrored. The hands aren't mirrored.
So it's like one of those carnival mirrors where it makes you look really short and fat.
Exactly.
Technically a mirror.
Yeah, as opposed to being tall and fat.
Ah, yes. A regular mirror for me.
And me. High five.
High five.
Ooh, all right. Kevin actually full kept, which was just Tusk Piercer and Acrobatics, which is a kind of a pretty easy 1, 2, 3 kind of curve, right? It gives you that guaranteed quest completion on 3 with, you equip Tusk Piercer on 2 with the hero power, and then you get the tradable plus just the easy one. It has the option to draw 2 more cards here, but it wouldn't get any progress towards quest completion. And the double jump by itself could just be quest completion by itself next turn if it were to pick up like a Spectral Sight. So I would err on the side of caution if I were to walk a mile in Kevin's shoes for the next 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because with respect to Glide, yes, you have a fuller hand, but you didn't actually expend any resources to get that fuller hand, right? It's still just, you will have played the same amount of cards, you have the same amount of card draw left in your deck once it's shuffled in. But as you said, it's wanting to make sure you have guaranteed quest completion next turn that is so important. So I do understand why he's not going for it here, even though the double extra draw was very tempting, because giving himself at least the chance of Glide off the top, Spectral Sight off the top, to be able to complete the quest with the tradables in hand is very, very tempting indeed. Whereas Pocket Train on the other side, with a 1-mana acrobatic sigil activated on this turn. Call me crazy. I'm thinking this could potentially be a double quest completion next turn if his hand allows it.
Yeah, could certainly well be. And I like the Moarg tempo here. One of the things you always have to keep in mind when you're talking about OTK Demon Hunter Mirrors is the possibility of Glide. You don't want to get too greedy with holding onto cards in your hand, just because if you get glid, then you have to redraw those cards all over again. So at least throwing something out that maybe wouldn't want to draw immediately off a Glide if it were to be there. He thought about dumping, or I don't know if he thought about it. He took a while to think about the turn, like dumping the coin, but there's really not anything to coin in his hand that makes a lot of sense. Maybe Illidari studies, but he doesn't really know what he wants from it yet.
Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit too much to play around Glide from your opponent, who hasn't shown necessarily any indication they actually have Glide in the outcast position. Rough draw for Kevin there, though, as he has now drawn 2 cards on this turn, so double trade brings him up to 4 out of 5. So while there's definitely the possibility for quest completion on this turn, he needs something off of either the studies or the tradables, and there it is with the Spectral Sight off the studies. Quite happily, he can just do what Demon Hunter does best, chug along with the quest completion. At the moment, he is 1 quest step ahead. He has the initiative over Pocket Train, completing his quest first. So as it currently stands, I'm thinking Kevin's in the driving seat.
It's interesting. They call it the driving seat as opposed to the driver's seat, which is what we call it over here in the States. I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, I call the back seats the boot seats as well, which I don't think you do over in the States.
Nope.
Don't actually call it that.
I mean, you could, at this point, you could literally tell me, oh yeah, you know, we call cookies gizmos, and I'd be like, yep, sounds correct to me.
It's actually pronounced Heesmos. You know that, TJ.
See, like, I don't know any better.
Okay, Pocket Train here with a pretty spicy play. We're actually seeing Vengeful Spirit, a card that very rarely actually gets use in the matchup, but does perfectly allow him to complete the quest by drawing the Peddler on this turn. The problem is now, of course, that he is, as I said, still that 1 step behind on the initiative, and the way that you break that when your opponent gets Kurtrus in hand first is, of course, with Outcast Glide. And so now for Pocket Train, as nice as that extra card draw was to get the Peddler in hand and complete the quest as well, he really wants to get into a position where he can outcast this Glide to deal with Kurtrus in hand for Kevin next turn.
And I hate to break it to him, but that ain't happening.
It's not happening.
Yeah, there's a tradable ahead. Obviously, he could play it, but doesn't have the mana to be able to do that going to following turns. I mean, this Glide is not bad for Pocket Train. The left side of his hand was pretty much entirely dead with Il'gynoth, Double I-Beam, and Talented Arcanist. Does get back, I would say, a much better hand with Double Jump and Tusk Piercer available. Double Jump could just pick up Glide. Hey!
That's the juice.
Oh my god.
There it is. Kurtrus back in deck. Pocket Train, as I said, the initiative swung right round. How the table turns for Pocket Train here as he gets Kurtrus in hand. As long as Kevin doesn't draw it back straight away, he's in the lead.
Now gets 2 draws here at the beginning of the turn with Sigil. Second Sigil. Hey! Still has a tradable to be able to try and find it, but this is the awkward part about getting glid after you complete the Kurtrus is, what do you do? Because you need to find the Kurtrus, But then if you use too many card draw sources to find the Kurtrus, then once you play the Kurtrus, you're out of card draw. So you start with the tradable and then see where you go from there.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the only other thing I was considering, as crazy as it sounds, is I don't think it's dire enough, but do you ever just slam Il'gynoth on this board? Because I know that if it dies, you're just conceding on the spot effectively at that point. But he's kind of losing this game, and I agree his most likely win condition is just to find Kurtrus in the next couple of cards. That's more likely than just dumping Il'gynoth. But man, if you don't find it, you're just signing your own death warrant there. There's nothing you can do when your opponent has a 2-mana discount on literally every card left in their deck.
Yep. And essentially a free Kurtrus. This is about the best possible situation. He's got a minion to be able to trade over the Moarg on the board. Going to continue drawing. If things go awry, he has another Glide in outcast position to reset the hand. In fact, it's quite good just because the cards that he has currently are cards that were drawn pre-Kurtrus, so he can just reset the discounts, though Acrobatics is sort of premium at this stage.
Immo, Moarg, I mean, you can go for obviously double jump into hoping to find Glide to draw yourself a better hand, but then Pocket Train just gets 4 more cards, all of which cost 2 less at that point. So he's ecstatic at the fact that you will have played an Outcast Glide. I guess you could maybe try and go for non-Outcast Glide with double jump and then studies, and then hopefully play the Glide that you drew. But even as I'm saying all of it, like, you're still just dead to a 7-3 Kurtrus on the other side of the board.
Yep. This is the turn that I could have agreed with a tempo Il'gynoth.
Okay.
Because it would have shifted the I-beam over, and then Pocket Train would have to deal with it from hand. 1 Moarg down in the deck.
Oh! 1 mana too expensive. Pocket Train fist pumping is. Obviously he knows it's not coming down on this turn, and even if it's in hand now, it's just too slow.
Yeah.
And I think my thought process with Il'gynoth was really just that maybe it can stop them playing Kurtrus for a turn. Now that they've played Kurtrus, honestly, I doubt they even care if there's an Il'gynoth on board, as it just is going to get glided again.
Oh, you're just going to put it back in the deck. He just drew it. Oh, man. He's going to draw it again. It's all right. But at this point, I feel like it's a little too late. Even if he were, he'd have to spend almost an entire turn playing it. I guess he'd have 3 mana to start drawing some cards, but you need a ton of setup. Ooh. All right.
Well, if Glide can get rid of Kurtrus, maybe Glide could redraw you Kurtrus as well. I don't know if it's a transitive law in that way, but Kevin, man, it's just one of those games. It was so unfortunate for him. The real crux of this game, I feel like, comes down to where along the way both players up until turn 5 were just doing what you're supposed to do with the deck. The difference came in when Kevin played Glide to disrupt Pocket Train's hand, presumably having the read, or at least scared, that Glide would be in outcast position for his opponent. So by gliding, he would then disrupt his opponent's hand and get his Kurtrus in position. It's just unfortunate that his read was the exact opposite. Glide was unoutcastable, and then after Kevin's own Glide, Pocket Train was able to get the Glide in outcast position, and he just signed his own fate there. It was hoisted on his own petard, is I believe the expression.
See, this is what I'm talking about. That can be literally anything.
It can, but he's hoisted on it.
I know. It all comes back to cookies. Alright, well, Tempo's the Il'gynoth now. Maybe he can buy himself some time or find a miracle turn next turn to win the game. Pocket Train, yep, 1 mana Acrobatics.
Is that just lethal now? That's 18. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Okay. 1 million damage, yeah. And there you see it, Pocket Train fist pump 3 2-0 sweep. Nice and clean for him. A shame that we didn't get to see the earlier games because he was saying in the practice group that he believes he played very, very well over the course of this series. But that last game, nothing to complain about, right? Very simple as he goes up to 5-0 in Swiss score. A very nice start for one of the up-and-coming players representing the hope of the nation for the United Kingdom.
UK's finest in action. That's right. And we'll be in that very exclusive club of players that have achieved that 5-0 score, the undefeated score. Let me do a little double check. Yeah, 12 players now that we've finished up round 5, our 5-0. Kevin's still in an okay spot. Looking at his tiebreakers, he is at the top end of the 4-1 players because he was 4-0 up until this point. So if he can manage to win out throughout the rest of the day, we could be seeing him make that top 16 cut, given his tiebreakers thus far. And I'll be honest with you, Derek, APAC needs it.
APAC does need it. This is all just part of the plan, though, TJ. You don't get it. We lull the world into a false sense of security during the Masters tours. Yeah, Europe and China, you're the best. Trust me. And then Glory and Possessi coming in, swooping in, aerial style, taking out Gabby. You never see it coming. Death from above.
Yeah. Swooping in like this Chungus right here. Did you see this yesterday? This is my buddy.
Is that a thing from the world of the Warcraft? Do you know what that is?
We are in Stormwind. I kind of know what it is. Raven knows more about it. But it's a dinosaur that you can ride on, but it costs you 5 million gold. Yeah, I know.
I mean, that seems reasonable. They don't exist.
Yeah, I know. Well, they exist in the land that it came from. There's actually a lot of them. There's a lot of different dinosaurs that you can ride on, you know? But this one's special because it's huge. And I'm pretty sure when you purchase it, it also comes with things on it that you can buy things from. Like it's like a
Christmas
ball.
tree. Oh, right. It's a shop on a dinosaur.
A Christmas tree?
Well, I thought you meant like it had decorations on it or something. I don't know.
No, that you can buy things off of it.
Right.
Christmas tree, yeah. I'm going to go down to my local Christmas tree and pick up some groceries today. What are you guys even doing over there? Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, no, that's what we call supermarkets here in the United Kingdom. You didn't know that.
Yeah, Christmas tree. Ah, yes. It's another term for a supermarket.
Exactly.
You guys and your slang. Absolutely ridiculous. But we have concluded round 5. Derek and I are going to... Production's like, get him out of here. But we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to kick off round number 6 right here at Masters Tour Stormwind. Don't go anywhere.
So you've bested a few bounties, and now your party is ready to challenge other players. Well, step on down into the fighting pit. I'm game designer Joe Killian, here to show you the ropes of PvP and mercenaries. Once you've unlocked and built a fighting pit in your own humble village, you'll be ready to get started. Inside, you can select from your teams and prepare, just like choosing a deck in Standard. At launch, a Mercenaries PvP match will consist of both players bringing a single team of 6, and just like in a bounty encounter, defeating your opponent's entire party will secure victory. One key difference from other game modes is that you take your party into combat as is. That means the progress you've earned in mercenary levels, ability tiers, and equipment all play a direct role into your PvP prowess. As you can imagine, the matchmaking in Mercenaries is quite a bit more complex than other game modes, since it needs to weigh all of these aspects to ensure relatively even power levels. While you'll always be paired up against opponents with teams of similar strength, we love that these factors open up a ton of potential for unique asymmetrical matches. Now let's talk strategy for a moment. Unlike PvE, where you can gather some information on what you'll be up against, in PvP, your team will face a mixed bag of opponents with varying roles and synergies. You may find yourself up against a protector-heavy orc team, or thrown into a fiery foray of elementals and casters. I like to bring beasts and nature casters, so I have good coverage of all the roles and some powerful synergies. If you want to come out swinging with all fighters, that choice is yours. Players will earn daily rewards just for participating in PvP. But with great ratings comes great rewards, and at increasing milestones, you'll unlock more and more mercenary reward chests. However, unlike the ranked chests from Standard, these contain mercenary-specific items, like mercenary packs and coins, so you can continue to expand and improve your mercenaries roster. We're incredibly excited to open up an entirely new way to PvP in Hearthstone, and now you know everything you need to get started, so it's up to you and your party. Good luck in the fighting pit, and we'll see you in Mercenaries.
Welcome everyone to round 6 of Masters Tour Stormwind. It's been a lot of fun, mostly watching from the sidelines for me yesterday, but now starting to get my teeth into the metagame. And my predictions were, as we ended Grandmasters a couple of weeks ago, that things had started to be settled a little bit now. We obviously haven't had any balance patches recently, Gia. And how has the meta been looking for you? Any surprises in terms of what's looking good, what's being brought, and just how things are shaping up?
I honestly can't tell you, Derek, because I've just decided to never touch predictions again of any sort. I just never get them right. So I just am going to be pleasantly surprised by everything. And while we're on this note, I do also have to apologize for calling a missed lethal on Maddie's game 4. He was actually one off with the Ignite play, I think. Thank you for many people alerting that to me. That's my bad. I'm going to get it together for this series because we once again have a lot of mirrors, Derek. Honestly, very similar to what we've been seeing even in the previous series, except instead of Face Hunter, there's Quest Mage for both players, and also the Demon Hunter for Stone is not the archetype you might expect.
That's right, yeah, mostly pretty standard builds of the mages. We see an armor vendor for Kallax, whereas there's a Wand Thief for Stone on the other side, but still pretty standard stuff, as you were saying. And I guess, we've seen that the Fell Demon Hunter, looking at the statistics at the end of day 1, was the highest win rate individual archetype in the tournament, looking very, very strong indeed. But if I had to guess, that's predominantly because a lot of players have gone with, if not a full aggro lineup, at least populating the 4th spot with either aggro Demon Hunter, aggro Druid, or Face Hunter. And so in this series, where it's now Warlock, OTKDH, and Mage, do you think the Fell Demon Hunter is going to be a struggle deck, or does it have the teeth to deal with non-aggro decks as well?
I do think it's going to be an uphill climb for it, especially versus the Warlock and DH. But maybe versus Mage, we did see that matchup go in favor of Tianming yesterday, I think. Him playing the Fel DH because of the sort of interaction where the Fel DH can deal incremental damage to the Mage and then get there with maybe like a 16-20 damage Jace at the end. Whereas if the Mage decides to deal 16-20, the DH can heal all the way back up to 30 a couple of times. And so they have a little bit more time to get there, it feels like. The Metamorphosis in the deck is also a big deal for that, but versus Handlock, it feels like the threats are too frequent and too large for FelDH to deal with. But to be honest, this is my knowledge of prior to this last round of nerfs to Handlock, because it feels like that's the last time we saw FelDH. It's just been so off meta, at least in Grandmasters, for the past couple months.
That's very true. That is very true. But we've kind of seen players adapt, I feel like, to the nerfs very well with the Warlock deck. Because even though, as you say, the quest is a lot slower, therefore Tamsin is a lot slower, Giants can often be a bit slower as well. We're seeing players very often go for, like, not play the quest on one so that they can get down a Nether on a bit sooner. We're seeing players prioritize just lowering and raising their health over and over again with these healing spells and the hero power in order to get Flesh Giant down as soon as possible. So I do think that, as you say, even though the nerfs have come in to overall lower the power of Warlock 100%, there's still an adaptation, I think, in the play style that players have adopted in order to counteract that, which will be interesting to see. And speaking of, here we go. It is the Handlock for WE Stone right out the gate. Pretty standard build, all things considered, nothing all too spicy here. And I think it could be in with a bit of a tough matchup, to be honest, against Calyx, who has the Mage, not a good matchup. The Demon Hunter, a closer one, but still not one that I love for the Warlock. And then, of course, the Mirror on the other side as well. So with WE Stone having both the Warlock and potentially the Fel Demon Hunter that might be potential weak spots in the deck, I do think that that one difference of the Fel Demon Hunter could be putting him in a pretty tough spot.
Right, if our theory is to be believed that Handlock has a good matchup there. But I'm willing to be proven wrong, even after the nerfs were done. Oh, sorry, even prior to the nerfs, I think I've seen Fel Demon Hunter take the win off of just a very timely Jace. If you can get good discounts from your Skull of Gul'dan, you can sometimes catch the Warlock off guard because they often want to take themselves down to like 18, 16 health in the midst of completing their quest. And if there's just a cheap Jace that they weren't accounting for, they can die out of nowhere. Again, Metamorphosis plays a very big deal in that. But if it is to be believed that the Handlock has a favorable versus Fel DH, then I think that WE Stone is in a very tough position here, especially since the Mage for both players does have that Handlock as a targetable archetype on the other side. As we can look at Calyx's build of the Mage, though, no matter what build, I think it's favored versus Handlock, but maybe the Armor Vendor comes to be a bit more of a minus in this matchup rather than a positive.
Yeah, it's overall not really what you're looking for, is it? Like, I can see the benefits of it because it can help you in terms of slowing down your opponent's Flesh Giants, right? By going for the armor that means they don't actually change their health total, which can be a little bit annoying in terms of trying to turbo those out. But the main thing, the main minion that is going to make a difference here is, of course, Magtheridon, which is just such a crucial puzzle piece here. I think as soon as you see it in the Mage, I think after Sirius was the first player to put it in, I want to say. It just makes so much sense, especially against Warlock, where they're going to play a couple big minions. You can't really afford to develop and clear on the same turn, whereas Magtheridon solves all your problems as long as you're able to clear everything off on the same turn, or even potentially just play it proactively and leave all the acolytes on the board so that they can't develop onto that board lest you just blow up all the minions. It's a very, very potent tool against Warlock, in addition to just the standard shoot them in the face game plan, which generally works quite well.
Right, I mean, I've just recalled that game that Chonsu played in our most recent series of APAC Grandmasters, where he did constantly leave up those 1/3 tokens from Magtheridon just as insurance, kind of like if at any point you want to play a giant, all it takes is a fire sale and they're all dead, plus I have a 12/12. Interested to see how Calyx will approach this stone with the Flesh Giant already available in hand. It feels like that is part of the win condition versus his mage, but it takes such a long time to get it online. To the point, though, that he's even throwing away Tour Guide, which I feel is like one of the most efficient ways to get Giants cheaper. However, this is mage we're talking about. If you play small minions in the early game, you're likely to get more punished for that because they are going to play free spells on them.
That's right, yeah. You're essentially forced into, if you want to play Tour Guide, you have to hit it with the Mortal Coil or the... just some kind of way to kill off the Touch the Nathrazim as well. Cool to see Kallax with his Hearthstone stress ball that I also am a big fan of. It helps a lot in some of those grinding ladder sessions that you may go for, and I'm sure to deal with the pressure of playing in a Masters Tour as well. Because weirdly enough, at the start of a Masters Tour, although it's depressing to start off with a couple of losses, if you start 5-0, all of a sudden that puts more pressure on you, if anything, because you have this perfect record. You don't want to break it, and you are actually starting to believe that you could go through to the top 16, the dream of which is very much alive for both of our players.
Can't lose now, not after I tweeted day 140. Let's go, no way. All right, it's going to be the Ruined Orb to start off for Kallax here. The Ice Barrier is a decent card just to keep his quest rolling because he expects to not have Frost Spell targets for a long time, but Fireball is also very good utility versus Handlock, just having an extra amount of reach that Stone might not be expecting.
And then Netherwind Portal on the other side is also tempting, right? It's obviously the least efficient in terms of immediate quest completion because he's already played an arcane spell, but hey, an extra 4-drop if your opponent wants to go backfire on turn 3, that's pretty good.
Sure. I mean, that minion is not likely to be procced and activated on board and killed at the same turn.
True.
So you could say if that sticks, that can be a target for Brain Freeze if I need to. But I think this is one of those matchups where you've seen mage players be very precious about their frost spells. They're not just going to throw out a flurry to progress the quest. Those are so important to stop flesh giants later on. So it's all about treading that balance as Kallax here as to how many frost spells he can use on minor targets in order to get the Arcanist Dawn Grasp in hand. For now, though, it is just going to be the portal, which currently also has a lot of bluff value. Stone does not know if this is like rigged fair game, for example, which would be a disaster for him.
Oh, and he obviously didn't take up the quest, right? So he knows at the very least it's not Ice Barrier. That's the only information I think he can get.
Or Ally.
Because, oh yeah, sorry, or Ally, correct. Yeah, good point, because all the others are just arcane anyway. Or neutral, they don't have a spell school. Going for Goldshy Footman there was the Goldshy and Null, sorry, not the Footman, was tempting just to get some pressure on the board. But again, as we keep talking about, you don't want to play minions unless they're really threatening your opponent. And I think a 5-4, as reasonable as that is for turn 3, it's just not quite big enough to actually represent any pressure, and they can probably clear it off quite easily.
I'd agree. Kallax with the Fireball top deck, my instinct here would to be just ship that face. You don't necessarily expect the damage to stick, but it's a proc on the quest. Again, he doesn't have a target for Flurry, and currently he doesn't actually have any other arcane spells than Primordial Study, so I would rather save that for quest layer 2 if possible. Feels like Stone finally has to start playing minions next turn, so you might have a target for Brain Freeze or Flurry, and then you can get studies for layer 2.
So the information that was now gained is that he knows that it's not rigged fair game as well, so he can start to narrow it down. Now it's not mirror entity as well, so I believe it's only counterspell or the Netherwind Portal that it actually is that it could be at this point now.
That's right. Hearthstone has just turned into a bit of a logic mini-game if you are facing Quest Mage. By process of elimination, that's right. Those are the only 2 possibilities now. And in terms of what you want to be counterspelled, the coin seems like a decent card to throw away. Even if he doesn't get the mana from that, he can like tap and then play a 1-cost spell if he wants to delete a card from the hand. Although we have seen many Warlocks just deliberately burn cards. He does see its portal now, though. Oh, Cariel Row. That is actually not that good for Kallax, right? Stone can kill his minion right now, so there's no more frost target.
Yeah, the interesting thing was that pretty much every time Stone would have been able to kill off his minion in some way, because he had a combination of touch and mortal coil. It would have to be like a 0-attack 4-drop, which I think is impossible now with summoning portal out of the game. And so it just means that he wasn't able to draw a card at the same time, but he could have still done that if he wanted to with touch and mortal coil. Basically, it's reached a kind of equilibrium, and neither player is especially happy or upset, I don't think.
Calyx with the studies does not hit Thalnos, which I think would have been first priority list, or even Steward, just something to give him value, or Guild Trader, anything that gets him more cards, but these are not it. Aegwin can be played this turn and just say, that's my turn, deal with it. He could go Phoenix and just have that loaded up, and 2 turns later, maybe get some face damage, but it's just that nothing's progressing the quest.
That's right, yeah, and he could obviously go Aegwin and then next turn with +2 spell damage, he would be able to go First Flame to deal 4 to it, and then Brain Freeze to deal 3, to deal the the 1 extra to kill it off, thus completing his quest. But I guess going for Phoenix, it means that he will still have a minion on board, and he can then go uncomboed Brain Freeze to start the turn, and then a Fire Spell to kill it off as well. So it means in 2 turns' time, he is guaranteed quest completion level 1.
He has Fireball played, so it's actually just the Brain
My
Freeze,
mistake.
right? Yeah. But all good.
Better.
It's the Brain Freeze that's the really tough one to get out of the way, and we see Stone completely just following the game plan of keeping his board empty, forcing Calyx to, if he wants to progress his quest, use one of these precious frost spells on his own minions. That Cramp Session is a big deal though, because that's one of the best benefits for taking the Phoenix. He will be able to draw 3 off of that next turn. For now though, this just looks like a ping pass to me.
Is there any consideration to Runed Orb just to spend that mana to try and discover maybe, I don't know, another Cram Session, maybe some more spell damage to bolster that Cram Session yet further?
That's true. But I kind of like weaving it into next turn to get the damage with the Phoenix. Maybe it's not super relevant because Calyx is nowhere near killing Stone, but I don't think Calyx has that much to spend his mana on anyway. You could argue that what he gets off of the Cram Session is what he spends his mana on, so it's very close, but I think I'd hold on to it here.
I think it's reasonable. I mean, his opponent is at 22, and he's used a Touch of the Nathrazim and a Drain Soul as well. Like, killing them without even having to use the Varden is not outside the realms of possibility, with Fireballs and Ignites still yet to come.
Yeah, especially against Mage, it's kind of hard for Warlock to delete their deck down to 10 cards and get the Blood Shards activated because there's so few targets for Soul Rend, for example. Stone's still making decent progress along that front though, but it feels like he finally has to leave minions on board here unless he's going to Soul Rend his own Null, which I don't think is going to happen. He can at least play Neophyte, so if Calyx wants to get benefit from his Frost spells, it's going to take up a lot of mana.
Yeah, I think this is smart, right? It's saying there's a minion on board anyway. If he has these kind of spells, they're coming down no matter what, and it's just a case of trying to make it so that he can't just spend his entire turn on drawing cards with Cram Session. He can't just go double Cram Session pass, or he's going to take a lot of damage on the following turn.
Nicely navigated by Stone as well to have his Raised Dead pool curated, to have cheap threats plus Neophyte. That's very annoying for a Mage to deal with. He also has perfect quest progression into level 3, whereas Calyx is only just now getting level 1 done. And the question is, does he do that with Flurry? Because even though it's a very efficient Frost spell, the thing is, if you start Brain Freeze, you don't get the combo damage, and if you don't start Brain Freeze, that's a card that's wasted into layer 1 because he already had Arcane and Fire represented.
Right.
Ooh, barrier
It's
as well.
The good freezes, though, on both the big ones, so you're happy with that. And then it's, I think, just about trying to set up for probably turn 8 Varden, because you can obviously spend 3 mana on the following turn and then finish off with the 5 mana Dawn Grasp at the end. And so is there any way to manipulate that? You can go for First Flame plus Brain Freeze. It's not quite there, is it? I don't think.
Yeah, the thing is, to get Varden in hand right now, he has to play the Cram Session and the Rune Orb, right? Because there's 2 arcane spells required for this layer and next. So it's not quite a guaranteed early Varden that also retains Cram Session for post Varden. So I'm not sure if he's supposed to all in on just immediate Varden as opposed to trying to eke out his resources to deal with more threats. So I think this is reasonable from Calyx. Oh, another one is enormous. After having seen a Flurry, it's go time for Stone.
Oh, this is so big. You can go Netheron plus the Neophyte to make it harder for them to react, and then just sure, spend your mana on Mortal Coil, use the Unstable Shadow Blast to kill off the Phoenix as well, or double one now is also available alongside the Neophyte. Basically, it's a really big board that they don't have much mana to try and answer, and then next turn, you have the Battlemaster just swoop in for hopefully lethal.
Yeah, and I think he's just safe enough if he kills the Phoenix, even without this new option of Mortal Coil and Touch, which is probably safer.
Right.
Even if he had to take the 3 from the Unstable Shadow Blast, he would be at 12. After having seen a Fireball, I don't think it's possible for Calyx to kill Stone here without some additional discovers made beforehand. So Stone is just going to take the safest route possible. Second safest, right? He did not take additional damage from killing the Phoenix, but he chose to get the card rather than the healing from the Touch, which I think is fine because he's going to have both Bristlebacks active next turn.
And so next turn, even if this Neophyte is killed off, there is still represented 36 damage, I believe, with the Battlemaster and then Unstable Shadow Blast to kill off the middle Knoll. So even with the Ice Barrier, still very handsomely lethal here represented for Stone. And while Calyx doesn't necessarily have that exact breakpoint in mind, he's at least considering the initial level of 31 damage, right, with the just the Battlegrounds Battlemaster on its own. But he ends up just pointing the Runed Orb face in the end. Gets himself a Brain Freeze, which, okay, can freeze an extra minion, but this is getting scary.
It is. If he still had that Flurry, I'm insta-picking Shattering Blast, but not the case.
Yeah.
So probably just Brain Freeze. He could freeze a Netheron and a Knoll. The one that's not next to a Netheron, right? Oh, Cone now. Never mind, we're doing that.
Yeah, that's insane. It's like the perfect card to get. But he doesn't even want to play it, okay.
Okay. Well, he can still survive Battlemaster here and manage to fit in one more spell. So
correct.
Layer 3 very close to being done as well. But now Stone is like, surely Calyx cannot play Varden and kill him all at once this turn. He is at 13, so question is whether he is meant to commit a Bristleback on his own minion. He does have Tour Guide as a relatively low impact minion to kill.
Yeah, in an ideal world, he wants to tap into the one remaining Neophyte in his deck, which he can do by starting off with the Tour Guide. Double Scavenger, like, he can put down a board that, number one, handsomely threatens lethal, and number two, means there's too many minions for Magtheridon to even summon the 3 Acolytes on the other side of the board, which is a very, very big distinction in terms of Calyx's ability to clear this off.
That is true. And if we're talking Calyx's immediate board clear potential, right? Say best case scenario, he still has to play 1 arcane spell, I think, and then to get Varden. So let's say he has like a Studies and then Varden, that's 6 mana accounted for. He can't then play Fire Sale or something like that afterwards. So this board is actually very sticky for Stone at the moment.
It really is. It's a big, big question mark for Calyx here, as now up to 17 health for Stone as well. There's very, very little, I think, if anything, that can be used to get lethal on this turn. And so for Calyx, it's just this Cone of Cold that he saved that is going to be giving him any chance of staying in this game whatsoever, I think. But if he wants to get Varden down first, he needs to start with an arcane spell, right? As I believe the one school of spell that has not been played yet. But then surely that is just way too much damage on the board and no mana left over to answer.
I think he's just going to do it to get the Varden in hand and then move on to just freezing things instead. Spring Water does allow for a bit more flexibility with the mana utilization, but it's not guaranteed. Both his minions are still in the deck, right? The Magtheridon and the Armor Vendor. So I'm not sure if you're supposed to take that risk here as opposed to just going like, say, Cone of Cold, Brain Freeze. Although that's a lot of mana floated and he doesn't have lethal the next turn, so he's going for it. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So if he freezes the big 3 on the right, and then there's 10, 22, 28, right, with the Bristleback and the the Null and the Scavenger as well, factoring in the Shadow Blast to be able to shuffle over the Bristleback. So Ice Barrier does keep Calyx alive at 2 health.
Oh my gosh, you're right. It had to be Barrier or Brain Freeze. I wasn't sure what he was going to go for, but now Stone's lethal game plan has been somewhat foiled. I say only somewhat because this is still a lot of pressure he can put forward.
Yeah.
I think he still goes for the Battlegrounds, Battle Master plan. And then his quest is currently on 4 out of 8, so at any point he can just go for like Blightborn Tamsin plus Backfire to finish off Calyx. I think this is a checkmate situation still.
Oh, the 6 heal from the Wind Fury Bristleback is so sick as well. Just makes it that much harder to try and cheese out any kind of a win whatsoever. And as you can see here, you know, everything we've been talking about, Stone has pretty much done over the course of this game. It's been a pretty standard approach to it, but that's because this is such a classic matchup at this point in the meta. We know how it's supposed to be played, and Stone has done that beautifully. I can't fault him really on any part of his game plan.
Yeah, me neither. And I think there's literally nothing Calyx can do to stop Stone from this point, because he can always either tap or backfire to get Tamsin Blightborn in hand, and then do either whatever's left between tap and backfire for the additional damage needed. So Calyx's only out is to kill Stone from here, and I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, Fireball for 9, that's not happening, is it? Let alone the fact there's 2 minions still in the deck, so this Spring Water far from guaranteed to even restore all the health. That is a 6 damage AoE though, so the board is cleared. Quest is not necessarily giving lethal here because it's on the final stage. If there was a glimmer of hope for Calyx, it came from that draw.
Right. It was just hoping that Stone didn't have any other self-damage effects immediately available, but we can see this backfire. We know, and Calyx knows now, that that is game 1 to Stone, which is huge because we've talked about how Handlock is in a tough situation here in the lineups overall. And also, I'm not sure what Calyx's mage is supposed to beat up on now that the Handlock is out of the way.
Right, I mean, this, as I see it, is the point of Mage in this metagame, is that it's really good against Handlock. It doesn't feel that great against Rogue or Demon Hunter or the aggro decks, to be brutally honest, in terms of what it's likely to face against in this metagame. And for Stone, it was, you know, it was a couple of things coming together. Resurrecting 3 Neophytes off Raised Dead is going to help you a lot. Getting all these big threats just in time is going to help you a lot. But it's not like he got absurdly lucky. He didn't play a single Flesh Giant that game. He just got there off knowing the matchup very well, denying any spells to be played by his opponent, clearing off the board 100% whenever he could. And then, as soon as it was time to play minions, he spotted it perfectly and pushed all the damage he could. It was very well done.
Yeah, the timing of the threats was just pristine. Like, against Mage, in the early turns, they want to be playing Brain Freeze, First Flame, etc. If you force them to do all of those piddly damage around the time that you already have mid-game threats, like the first turn we saw Stone actually leave threats on board was a 5-4 and a 3-2, I think is already around turn 5. And Calyx was only just getting first layer of quest done. That whole delayed effect of Mage's quest completion can snowball from there. And Stone realized that from that turn onward, the threats were back to back and would never stop. And it was just very, very cleanly planned out. Calyx, though, is going to move on to his OTK Demon Hunter now, which could face off either versus the Fell Demon Hunter or the quest mage of Stone's own.
That's right, and I believe it is going to be the Fell Demon Hunter for Stone on the other side, which leads to obviously a very interesting matchup, and one that at first glance I would have to say I think OTK Demon Hunter is in a fantastic spot. It's the kind of deck that, against any control deck, most combo decks as well, to be honest, the OTK Demon Hunter is just king. Because against the combo decks, against the control decks, it's essentially possible to out-heal or out-armor them. They just deal too much damage with the combo. And against the combo decks, they have Glide to disrupt what the opponent is trying to do and get to their combo quicker. But is there anything else that I may be missing in this matchup? Any tools in the Fell Demon Hunter's arsenal to turn the tides?
Yeah, I think there is. The Skull of Gul'dan. One too many times in Grandmasters, we've seen Skull just pull Il'gynoth, Moarg, and deal the OTK just like the old OTK Demon Hunter, like turn 7 or something, which is, you know, around the same time or even one turn earlier than an uninterrupted OTK Demon Hunter. And it's not that the OTK Demon Hunter is completely uninterrupted, right? The Fel Demon Hunter, they're not going to build big boards, but they are capable of dealing face damage, getting the OTK Demon Hunter maybe around to like 18, 16 range, which at that point you can threaten Jace as a lethal as well. But those worlds are few and far between, and also if the skull happens and there's a glide to respond to it as the OTK Demon Hunter, then I think Fel Demon Hunter can pack it back up. There's a Magtheridon though for Stone, which is pretty interesting. 12-12, kind of hard to kill. Maybe that's the win con.
I could see that as a keep, right? Like, Jace probably too slow. I know it's the standout card here, but as you said, getting Skull in outcast position does just feel more important, and Jace pretty much obviously locks out that possibility. So Stone is going with Magtheridon and Talented Arcanist to potentially find the Fellscream Blast or the Immolation Aura to be able to kill off the Acolytes. And that's exactly what he gets. We could be seeing the turn 4 activated Magtheridon, maybe even on both sides.
Yeah, the back-to-back mags. Okay, this is just such an interesting game. I mean, I was going to say for Stone, this looks like probably the best possible combination of cards you can get for the matchup, because you present the Magtheridon, they say, okay, I'm not going to kill it, but with the time you spent doing that, I'm going to progress my quest, then try to kill you over 2 turns. But the thing is, Stone has the sort of answer to that by following up with a Skull, which kind of makes Kallax have to glide at some point to get rid of those discounts. And if you're gliding while there's a 12-12 on the other side, you're going to die to that.
So we do still, of course, have to consider the classics of the matchup, which is to say glide is still a concern. And so for Stone, although he's obviously considering at the moment getting the Magtheridon down as soon as possible, he does need to consider the possibility of tempoing out some of these 2-drops in order to dump his hand of the non-draw effects. And so even though he kept the Arcanist in the starting hand, very possibly to go with the Magtheridon, now he's got the Moarg to combo with that instead. I really like that he's just dumping this out on this turn to make room instead for in case a glide comes down.
Yeah, it's very clever. The fact that the Moarg and the Arcanist are somewhat redundant in this exact situation, where their only purpose is to go with the Immolation to get rid of 1/3s and wake up Magtheridon. Stone's just gotten rid of the Arcanist over Moarg here, just in case Kallax had anything to benefit off of Moarg with. I think it's fine. The Moarg will immediately die when waking up the Magtheridon, which is a big deal, because you don't want to leave a Moarg on board by the time you play Mag, because that's going to help Kallax deal with it. Like, he'll only need a Moarg of his own and an I-Beam, for example, to deal 12. Kallax, though, just going for dumping the Immolation of his own, which might come back to bite him, because it feels like Mag is his best answer to Stone's Mag.
That's true. I mean, what? Stone kept 2 cards in his starting hand. One of them was an Arcanist that he played on 2. Like, you have to start questioning why on earth would they possibly keep that card and then just play it, because it's not like it was in the outcast position to make room for a Skull. It was in the middle of the hand. And obviously now that Magtheridon has been coined out, some of those answers can start to come into place perhaps. But for Kallax, is it just responsive Magtheridon? Because surely if the first one came down first, if they all blow up at the same time, the first one triggers first and the second one blows up the first one.
That is true. That's what I failed to account for. If there is a Mag, you don't actually need the Arcanist Immolation Aura to activate your own Mag. You're just kind of saying, if your opponent wakes theirs up, mine's going to wake up after. That's the check. And now we just have all these 1/3s on board that don't really want to die, I think. This is so weird.
Can you go if you go Immolation Aura and then trade
then Hero Power the last one? Yes.
Right.
I think that wakes up with Stone's Magtheridon going second, and then that will kill Kallax's Magtheridon, I think.
That's cool. That is cool. If that works that way, that is a very clever play from Stone.
He's doing it. It has to work this way, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Kallax's is going to wake up. It's going to kill the last 1/1, which is the trigger condition for... Wait.
Oh no, it doesn't work that way, does it? It works the exact opposite way.
Oh yeah! Oh my god, sorry. Okay. Yeah, sorry. It's your opponents that are the condition for your own token. So what had to happen there was him shooting his own 1-1. Okay, we all got confused. Stone did as well, and now Calyx is giga winning.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously that was a massive blunder, one that I would obviously have made myself. I was advocating for the mistake that he made. It just got a little bit confusing as to you have to obviously proc your opponent's ones to activate your own Magtheridon. So was there a way you could have done it? That wasn't right, because you can't hero power your own guys.
No, I don't think so, yeah. And if you had gone for all of them dying at the same time, it will still have gone in favor of Calyx because he played his second. So he needed like an I-beam to shoot his last 1-1 or something like that, but didn't have it. So this kind of feels over.
Kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah, imagine needing any other cards in your deck apart from Magtheridon.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, the way this panned out. Apologies. We need to play more Magtheridon, Derek. Yeah, Stone, in order to kill this... Oh, wait.
Ooh, it is the lowest health target, and so... Arcanist Fell Barrage?
Yeah, that's 6.
Plus a Moarg as well. Yeah, that'll do it quite handsomely.
Okay, it's dead, but Calyx is still very far ahead. Like, he has his own win condition of the quest. He doesn't quite have lethal of his own, even though there's a Moarg on the board, because the Il'gynoth is still super expensive. So I think it's just move along with your life and complete the quest either with Acro Spectral or a Glide. I don't know if I like the Glide here.
Yeah, I mean, his hand isn't a million miles off lethal as it is, right? Do you need to go for the Glide?
It does feel like a million miles if you're not getting any further discounts, right? Because the Moargs will not, they'll still cost a lot.
I guess, but like a couple of hero powers double up on the I-beam with the Moarg that's on board. Like, obviously a lot needs to go right and your opponent needs to not heal, but...
Like, the Moarg needs to stay alive to get the cheesy lethal, I think, for Calyx here. But if you leave their Moarg alive, what if they skull and get Il'gynoth, right? Sometimes you might die to that as well. It's a really tricky balance to have to tread. And in the end, he's going for I-beam and then trade away to get the Kurtrus in hand. This works fine as well. He can go for the post-Kurtrus Glide.
Indeed. Well, I suppose the one saving grace now for Stone is, as you said, he does have that Skull of Gul'dan, which, if it can hit Moarg, the other Arcanist... Oh no, wait, he's played both Arcanists now. Okay, Moarg, Fellscream Blast, and something, then maybe he can get lethal? I don't know.
Yeah, possible. Moarg, Fellscream.
Sure. I mean, he's played one Moarg as well, and there's no philosophies as well, so it's like...
there's not.
It's very limited.
Moarg, Arcanist is... Oh wait, is this the last
Arcanists? Yeah.
Okay. I-beam?
Sure.
I-beam, Fellscream Blast? I'm reaching, but it's not like there's any other play than Skull. Right?
I mean, with Il'gynoth, with Kurtrus in hand, you can just go tempo Il'gynoth if you want to, and pray that that gets there. Maybe with Skull on the following turn, having banked the mana, that can be enough, but I mean, there has to be a way to clear this, right? With Moarg's talented Arcanists.
It's expensive, but yes, there is. I mean, just Moarg, Arcanist, Fellscream. Is dealing 6. That's not quite enough, actually. So, does he have to use both Arcanists and the Moarg?
Oh, at that point, surely you're just calling their bluff and slamming down Kurtrus.
Probably, yeah. I mean, even if he uses all those tools, his combo is not wrecked, right? He has another Moarg left in the deck and the Guild Traders.
Okay.
So I think Calyx is here just calculating what's the most Stone can actually do with essentially 9 represented on board and an Il'gynoth preloaded. Can he deal 20 from hand? If he has Moarg, Thalnos, Fellscream Blast, that's just 12. So
yeah,
there has to also be I-beam.
Like,
Has to
it's
be
such
a really specific set of cards, yeah.
Right, it's just so impossibly specific. So I do agree with Calyx in the end that you just dump it down. Get rid of the Talented Arcanist as well. Sure, it's not going to be used for the combo because you have a 1-mana 1 already in hand, which totals up to lethal on 2 turns time. Not quite the next turn. But it's still getting there, and if your Kurtra survives, then it is actually just straight up lethal next turn.
Stone's just at 12. He doesn't have any healing. So, I mean, other than the Eldraki, which is admittedly not impressive at the moment. I think this is just a Skull and Prey turn. Like, and he also just can't heal from Eldraki with Il'gynoth on board.
I grow impatient.
Well, you go hopefully get Moarg I-Beam and then use that to kill Kurtrist with your 1-3 as well. But it looks like he's gonna kill Kurtrist with the Fel Barrage Thalnos instead and the trade of the 1-3, sure.
Yeah, sure, it's exactly 7 damage, and then you swing the rest face. Okay, and then again, if it survives, you can go for some kind of nonsense with Skull of Gul'dan on the following turn. It does mean, with that as a top deck, that it's so close to lethal for Calyx, but it's still obviously 1 turn away, so he just needs to bridge that gap before he goes for the lethal next turn, which is doable, right, on this turn?
Trying to see if he can do it this turn. I can't find it, though. Not with all of these cards too expensive.
If there were more minions in play, he could just go double Fel Scream Blast, one of them for 9, one of them for 3, right?
Yeah, but not the case. Only 2 targets, so... Wait, does the I-Beam change anything? Too late. But he is alright. Just kill the Il'gynoth with, like, more I-Beam or something, and a Fel Scream. You don't need both. It's just so rare to me to see that Stone's at 12 and there's an Il'gynoth in hand for Calyx and Stone's still not dead.
Yeah, and I guess first and foremost, Stone does actually have to clear off these minions because the spell damage sticks, unlike with the Talented Arcanist, which would be very, very easily lethal next turn with Il'gynoth.
No Jace for him.
Okay. Fel Scream Blast. I mean, none of this is ever lethal, obviously, with the Il'gynoth already fallen by the wayside, so he just needs to try and heal up for as much as possible with the Eldraki Warblades. That's a clear on the board, and then he can just launch the rest face.
You're not supposed to just Fel Scream this? Like, the Fel Scream has very little utility now because Il'gynoth is gone in terms of burst damage. So
You just heal for 4.
yeah?
I guess, yeah. That's not ridiculous, yeah.
Like, use the Moarg while it's there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
It is just 4, though. It's not 4 on each. So he still has to immo after the fact.
Yes, exactly.
Job done.
And now Calyx is just looking for more minions. Other guild trader, ideally.
That is correct. Yeah, he can obviously go with Glide on this turn if he wants to like reshuffle back in. I mean, it's not a terrible hand to glide with an Acrobatic still in hand, but again, it's just not especially necessary, and you definitely don't want to outcast it when your opponent has clearly such a lackluster hand on the other side.
Now that Stone's healed, this is no longer lethal. It's only 18 with 1 Fel Scream. Can you go like
Philosophy? Is it lethal on this turn? Is that
wait. If you start Moarg Il'gynoth and then Fel Scream, that is 4 damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you play Arcanist and then Fel Scream, that's 18. So 4 plus 18 is 22, and then the swing is 22. However, I miscalled lethal earlier today. I could be wrong again, but I think that works.
4 plus 18, 22 plus the swing. Makes sense to me. The mana adds up as well, yeah. Oh no, you can only play 1. Yeah, sorry, it was 1 mana off on that turn, right?
Oh, yeah. Did he not have... How much did the studies cost? 0 by that point?
Yeah. So
Okay,
we didn't
so-
have mana was the restricting factor.
I see. Oh, that's a Jace.
That is a Jace.
That Jace is going to kill itself, I think, with all the I-beams and Fell Screams played. But the thing for Stone is whether he thinks he can get more healing by equipping Aldraki this turn and then having the Jace buff the Aldraki with the Furies played. But that's all kind of irrelevant, right? Because if you're not healing beyond, like, say, 36 off of I mean, you can't without the armor. You don't outrun Il'gynoth breakpoints.
Yeah, you don't. It's kind of just over, right? If you're not getting there with lethal with Jace on the following turn, none of it makes a difference anyway. You just need to hope that maybe they've messed up their combo so badly that they can't kill you at this point. I don't know, by using so many combo pieces, but we know with still the Guild Trader plus all of this goodness still in hand, it just has to be lethal here.
I mean, is it already in hand? Let's check again. Il'gynoth costs 5, right? So, again, he can 5, 7, 8,
I
9.
don't see it. Oh no, you can go for Persistent Peddler and shoot it. Like, again, there's maybe some really weird ways that you can get there.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either, even if he could have played I-Beam and the thing we mentioned a while ago that deals 22. The thing is, your Il'gynoth would have died at some point before that, so... But Calyx is like, what? How do I still not have it? Does he... Wait a second. Wait, how big is this Jace? Is he dead if he doesn't heal here?
Surely not.
There's a Fury, a Chaos Strike. I don't think there's enough in it.
What are the cards left in deck? It's Guild Trader and Peddler, though, so we can just draw, trade, and then it's lethal anyway, right? Or is there no mana? Oh my god, it's 1 mana off, you're right.
It is, it is. Wait. Okay.
Oh, it's pretty simple now, right? We just see, is this Jace lethal? Give it a go.
I don't think it is. No meta played, not enough Furies, but... Oh, wait! Oh my god! Oh my god! You're kidding me!
Amidst the flames.
I'm still not sure. But if Calyx is out of his chair, that's gotta imply lethal? Spell Barrage?
Scared of it,
Forgot about that. I think it's just lethal, right? There's the other Fury, there's a Hero Power, and the Chaos Strike. That's
it's
16.
lethal!
Even without the other Fel Barrage, that Fury was +8 damage. That top deck was exactly what gave Stone the win here. Calyx, the Guild Trader being at the bottom and not having the mana for like 3 turns in a row. Man, I don't know. Was there any creative lethal Calyx could have gone for? Like, we were racking our brains for it, but we were inventing mana. I don't think it was there. But that win should not have happened for Stone, I feel like.
Yeah, I didn't see that one ever happening, to be honest. Again, because the limiting factors there was just that he didn't have enough health on his minions to target them with repeated spells. Like, he could go Il'gynoth, Moarg, I-beam his own Il'gynoth for 6, but then he couldn't go for... he could then squeak out another 4 from the Fellscream Blast because he could target his Moarg and the Peddler with it as well. So, like, I think he was just short in terms of mana because he would have been... maybe 2 mana Peddler, though. Maybe that was enough. I don't know, man. It was so close. Like, 1 mana for the I-beam. I think it was like 1 mana off a weird, funky lethal you can go for. But no matter what, it is a horrible way to lose.
I know, and this is after the Magtheridon that we all messed up. I even forgot about that. I got distracted by trying to find creative lethals for Calyx. It's just, I mean, obviously, we felt like Calyx won. Calyx felt like Calyx won. Stone felt like Calyx won. Something incredibly unlikely happened towards the end there. But if we are going to be as critical as possible, was it right maybe for Calyx to go for a glide somewhere earlier to get back the Il'gynoth in the deck? Like, I could not have identified that that was necessary at that point because it felt like he had it in the bag and just needed Guild Trader at some point. But in the one world where Guild Trader was the bottom card in the deck, it does not work out apparently.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of... Because you can say that he could have gone for Glide earlier, but I think on average that just gives him a worse hand, right? Because he had Acrobatics in hand, he had a bunch of tradables still in deck. It had to be specifically bottom card Guild Trader for him to not hit lethal in one of those earlier turns, and that's unfortunately exactly what he got into a top deck exactly Jace plus a rank 3 Fury to get the extra damage to close out the game. Like, I think on average there, Calyx was extremely likely with the line he took to win the game. He just got the very, very low percentage chance to lose the game.
Yeah, agreed. Like, Glide, when you have 0 card draw in the hand that you're putting back in the deck, is a lot of the times the death sentence. What I mean by earlier Glide was maybe to complete quest, but obviously it was not foreseeable that the game would pan out anywhere close to that at that point. It's just, I mean, I thought this meta was done and settled. I thought I'd seen everything from these matchups. I was wrong. So now, on match point, just needs to win this mage, and surely this time the Demon Hunter can get the win. This one is good for DH, right?
This is a good one. You're not playing many minions at the start. You're dealing a lot of burst damage. Those are all things that Mage does not like to see. But even having said all of that, this is a juicy looking hand for Stone. He's got himself the flow, fantastic. AI for a bit of card draw. And then in terms of having targets to target your spells or with which to target your spells, the Magtheridon is perfect. Give the Acolytes on the other side. If they clear it at 12, 12 is very difficult for Demon Hunter to answer. And if they don't, you just go pew, pew, pew and keep chugging through your quest.
Oh man, already having flashbacks about the Magtheridon. And for Stone, the hand is incredible. As you outlined, there's like a coin flow into AI. I don't think Magtheridon should be priority 1 for Stone here. I still just like getting flow down as soon as possible because that's kind of the best insurance you have versus Glide, is that if you're going to give me a handful of new cards, most of them are going to cost 1 less than the original.
However, for Calyx, this is not bad in terms of a starting hand. It's not perfect, of course, but he can complete the quest here in a couple of different ways. He can either go trade, swing, trade. He can go swing, acrobatics. A couple of ways he can go about it, of course. And then with the acrobatics next turn as well, with some help in terms of the discounts, this is still a hand that can keep up quite nicely in terms of quest progression.
And I like that he's completing quest here with the swing and then tradable back of the Peddler, because acrobatics can be used a bit later on for more draw potentially, depending on what kind of discounts he gets. But this hand, it's all combo pieces, it's garbage!
Not there quite yet, is it? If you can draw Il'gynoth and discount it to 5, then... I mean, even then, you're looking at like turn 7, absolute earliest, to be able to deal 18 damage. It's still just not there, which means he needs the card draw, and he needs Stone to have a nice slow hand, which, I mean, admittedly, in terms of actual quest completion, this is not a turbo hand for Stone.
But it does say turn 4 Magtheridon into turn 5 Fire Sale potentially. Deal with a 12-12.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, both players have very slow quest progression, but the thing is, Stone's quest or progression is somewhat manipulated by Calyx, right? If Calyx at any point decides to put minions on board for whatever reason, Stone can then switch to the Turbo Outvarden game plan. But Stone should not expect Calyx to do that for him. So I feel like being proactive with a Magtheridon is a good idea. So he could just delay the AI here. He could go Studies plus Barrier. That's the Frost spell accounted for this layer. And then you have the Fire Sale on turn 5 most likely to finish layer 1 and wake up your Magtheridon.
Oh, I-beam as well. And for Calyx, needing to play, or sorry, to draw 5 cards for this step of quest progression means you really don't even want to play acrobatics, because say you play it and you don't get more card draw pieces, you're just in an even worse position where the quest feels further off than ever in terms of actually being completed. Nothing's getting discounted. He goes for it anyway and gets himself the second acrobatics. It's something at least, I suppose, to try and get the quest done.
It's a prayer to get closer to Glide, I suppose. Like, Calyx in a bad enough position that he would play Glide even without outcast value, I think, just to progress his quest. But the upshot of it is at least he has the kind of hand that does deal with Magtheridon. Spectral's
That's
clutch.
True. Oh, okay.
But he has to spend the other aggro here. Oh.
I mean, he gets to play the discounted sigil alongside that if he does. It's not great, of course, because you want to save the acrobatics for post-Kurtrus, but it's something. It actually allows him to play this game of Hearthstone.
Does he overdraw if he plays the sigil, right? I mean, whether or not he plays it, that's going to replace itself next turn.
So we drop to 10. He would, unless he dumps a Fellscream Blast.
Yeah. I think you still go for it and then maybe hope that you discount something else dumpable, ideally like a Tusk Piercer or something like that. Oh, it's so inefficient though.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, you could also just risk an overdraw. Like, if you think a 0-mana Fellscream Blast is more valuable than a random card in your deck, you don't have to get rid of it. Because, again, at this point, cheesing out a turn 8 lethal with the extra 1-mana Moarg is, I think, a very valid approach to the game.
Sure. I mean, we've seen this quite a few times in APAC GM as well. It's deliberate, calculated risk, because in the world where you overdraw Il'gynoth, obviously it's just like a 1 in 15 by this point, not very likely, then you just lose. But in the world where Il'gynoth is safe, you speed up your lethal potential by a whole extra turn, most likely, because the Fellscream you retained has the discount. But we'll see what is the overdraw. Well, first we're going to see what Stone draws from his quest.
Okay, yeah, you can just launch that at the Dome, I guess. Although you probably would rather spend the Phoenix on this turn. Because to be fair, again, Stone has only completed level 1 of his quest, and it's not like he's going to be completing the second level guaranteed next turn anyway, because the Ice Barrier is not playable, with the first one in play and still not procced. Calyx, however, praying for a non-disastrous overdraw. Okay, that's it. That's...
And now this double jump is relatively likely to give him the glide, but I think because of this play he's made deliberately to retain the Fellscream in hand, he's not even bothered about getting Kurtrus online. It's more about surviving until Il'gynoth, and approximately turn 9, right? He would have access to... Not quite lethal. Oh wait, yes, lethal. Yeah, he has 2 Morgs and an Arcanist and the 0-cost Fellscream. So essentially, if we are just not bothered about Kurtrus, you can dump 1 expensive Arcanist and 1 expensive Fellscream and still be fine. That is, however, not enough to kill the Magtheridon. I don't think this is a glide game, though.
You have to go Moarg. Moarg, Arcanist, I-Beam, like it's so expensive to kill it off here.
Yeah. So Morg, Fellscream, and then expensive Arcanist, I-Beam does kill it. But these are all the pieces that I mentioned are expendable with the addition of another Morg. So what he needs to do now is find Philosophy in a timely fashion, which he is not actually running in the base list, my mistake. So now, the remaining studies, if that's still in the deck, has to give him a Philosophy maybe, if he still wants the turn 9 Il'gynoth game plan. And also he used the 0-cost Fellscream. Maybe it wasn't possible to do the thing. So I think he's switching back now to a Kurtrus game plan.
Yeah, Glide all of a sudden looks a lot more appetizing right now that he's used up some of the cheaper combo pieces in his game, in his hand. Weestone, I guess, is one saving grace for Calyx. Doesn't have the frost spells with no Brain Freeze and no Flurry. He can't punish him for playing minions here. And so I'm looking at probably Runed Orb face on this turn, or I guess Runed Orb on the minion, and just hope to find one of those frost spells that I talked about.
Yeah, I think it's safer to Rune Orb the more, because you still retain a minion on the other side in case you hit Brain Freeze or Flurry, but if you hit face and don't hit any other removal spell, you might have to use an Ignite on the Morg, because I don't think you should ever leave that up. Like, Calyx could still have, theoretically, an Il'gynoth lethal if the Morg was preloaded. Stone misses, however, on any frost spells, so Calyx is not actually punished for having to leave minions on board here, which is huge. He can also outcast this Glide now, which is amazing for him.
He can, yeah. Obviously completes the Kurtrus. Is there any way he can play it on this turn? There just isn't, is there, with no discounts left to come as well?
The only question is, are you dumping anything prior to Purchase? You can make the argument for dumping an Arcanist, I suppose. You don't technically need that if you have Guild Trader, but I'm unsure. Like, we know that the deck is actually very low quality in terms of card draw right now because he had to use double Acro to finish the quest, so the Glide might be a bait here. Thing is, can he get the Purchase without the Glide? Still playable. I mean, outcastable. Just going for any other way to finish it than Glide. One last tradable. It's possible, but if he misses, he has to... Okay, got it. Whew.
Man, that was pretty lucky, right? To just trade back and forth, get a whole bunch of card draw to complete your quest. A very, very big turn, and it means that by clearing off his minions, okay, he's now playing around the potential draws of Flurry, of Brain Freeze to make it a little bit harder for his opponent to complete the quest, but 3 mana Spring Water, the double Incantus Flow is now really starting to pick up that value, and Stone with a Blood Mage Thalnos, hey, that sounds perfect to keep the card draw rolling. Surely has to find quest completion soon.
Yeah, really looking for those Brain Freezes now, ways to get Frost spells that can target his own minions. That's all he's looking for, because Kallax has already gotten the Purchase in hand, so Stone's working effectively with a 2-turn clock here. Cram Session for 4, even without Varden in play. It's very rare that you see this. He's just shipping everything. Varden's too late. You know what? I'm completely behind this. He has another... Wait, is this lethal?
Is this lethal?
No way! What? Wait.
Oh, it's one off.
He can't ping. Oh. Joking?
That is not illegal. Are there any draws that can get there with the double discount?
Another hot.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
What?
I'm speechless.
Was disgusting.
These were all unfavorables versus OTK Demon Hunter. My mind's blown.
That should not happen.
About like what happened 2 turns before that. I mean, Kallax's turn, where we were talking about, okay, Glide, you can outcast it, but he knew no acrobatics left in the deck. One Spectral Sight used, there was so little card draw left that he decided to go for the far from guaranteed quest completion of going for tradable, which you normally think is unlucky if you just trade into tradables back. But in this situation, seemed really good. He seemed like he was in the driver's seat. If he could just get the Purchase down, Il'gynoth would cost 4 by the time you drew it after that. And then Stone was miles away from getting the Varden, but he just said, I don't need it. I have a Phoenix. I have another spell damage minion. I have 2 flows in play. Ignite from the deck, costing 0 by that point, was just so clutch. I have no words after that, Derek.
I have some words. Hearthstone scriptwriters, get a new joke, okay? Leave Kallax alone. He's been unlucky enough for long enough. He's done so well. Masters Tour after Masters Tour. Previously, in the Torsop system as well, he was one of the best performing players. And yet still, he's been unable to make that climb into Grandmasters. Still, his incredibly strong win percentage isn't enough to get him into that upper echelon of competitive play. And when you see stuff like that, you just don't know what to say. I feel so bad for him there. But I guess trying to take a more diplomatic approach. He is still 5-1, still in with a chance of getting through to the top 16, obviously, if he's able to win out from here on in. And of course, huge congratulations to W.E. Stone, representing, of course, the rest of China, who are, I believe, again, having a pretty good run of it, with a few players still left on that 5-0. And now it will, of course, be 6-0 record after round 6. So huge congratulations to him. I think aside from that one blunder with Magtheridon, he actually played a very, very clean series. It was just that one blip that I also cannot claim to not have made in that situation. But well done. I expect good things from him in the rest of the tournament. And for now, we're going to go to a quick break before we come back with some more action from the rest of round 6 here in Masters Tour Stormwind.
Zarkus, how long have we plotted and planned?
My dear Lady Presta, it's finally our grand opportunity!
We'll need some mercs to do our dirty work. Help me if you can, oh, I'm in trouble. Bring these bounties in and I'll pay double. You'll go from rags to riches in a snap.
Oh, get yourself some gear and grab a potion. Glory waits for you and a promotion.
You know it.
Just be smart and wear your thinking cap.
Now, honest labor really can be its own reward. But life is so much sweeter now you have a great sword. Step right up and you can be a mercenary. They say that fortune favors the bold, but fortune does you favors when you got enough gold. You're influencing people and you're winning.